the Reds tonight in Cincinnati. Tuesday, partly sunny with a chance of rain throughout the day. Highs in the upper 80s in Milwaukee, low 80s in Madison. Tonight, rain likely, lows in the mid-60s in Milwaukee, low 60s in Madison. Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a 30% chance of rain in Milwaukee. Partly sunny for Madison, much cooler with highs only around 70 degrees. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gostad.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
And welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Wisconsin's Real Resistance Radio. I'm pleased to announce Crudy is gone today, so we're going to have a lot of fun. Joined in studio, we're going to start out today with our friend Dr. Robert Kraig. He's the Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. Robert, welcome back once again.
Great to be with you, Dom, and I guess I'll take your word for it. It's good that Crudy's gone.
No one can tell us what we got to do now, Robert. Hey, I know, I hear you a lot, man. I know you're all around media these days. You're a very smart, progressive guy, but some of our audience may not be familiar with you, Robert. I want to get a little bit into your background. What drives you? What is the point of your role as Executive Director over at Citizen Action? And where do you see the state going? So let's start. Dr. Robert Kraig, are you a local guy? Are you a Wisconsin guy? Where are you from?
Well, I'm actually... wait for it, from suburban Chicago. Originally grew up there, but I've lived in Wisconsin.
Suburb of Milwaukee.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Oak Park, Illinois, actually.
Sure. All right.
And but have been here since 1989 when I started my long PhD program at UW-Madison. So I've lived here most of my adult life.
And what was what's your PhD in?
It's in. I'm not making this up. It's in rhetoric.
Rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
Rhetoric? Mm-hmm. Well, you should have your own show, man.
I don't know. Do all the rhetoricians have their own shows?
Is that what we're called when we're spewing rhetoric? And what is that? What does rhetoric, a PhD in rhetoric, provide you? What would you learn from that?
Well, it's really the study of the history and philosophy of public persuasion. And so it goes back to the ancient Greeks and Aristotle. But I was an expert on American political discourse. And I did a lot on the 19th and early 20th century in the progressive era. I did a book on Woodrow Wilson, actually, that came out of my dissertation. But also wrote some peer-reviewed articles. Peer-reviewed means that other academics secretly reviewed them, right, about why progressives have lost the 20th century and why we're in the situation we're in. So I've thought about it all the way to the present day, which brings up why I'm leading a social justice organization instead of, the cushy 10-year track positions that Governor Walker and conservatives like to attack all the time.
Why, Cliff Notes version, if you would, please, Robert. How did the progressive lose the 20th century?
We had this weird thing that, quite frankly, we built this huge modern government to solve social problems, starting with fighting Bob La Follette and the Wisconsin idea. But we never fully justified or legitimated it and pretended in many ways that we still lived in this era when government was much less central to our lives. And I would substitute for government the word democracy. We had to expand the power of our democracy to check the robber barons of the 19th century. And so we've been open all along to this notion that somehow we can have limited or small government and have anything like freedom in the presence of these giant multinational corporations. And that's why we swing back and forth between a conservative ideology which can't govern and a democratic ideology that is not sufficiently strong in order to establish the kind of democratic controls we need to actually expand freedom and opportunity for everyone.
It seems like we're back in the era of the robber barons again. We've swung back around there.
Right. So Foxconn is the new railroads, right? Or the new timber industry. Exactly. Who were incredibly dominant and took all the money and corrupted all the elected officials until Fighting Bob LaFollette and the progressives came along.
And the deficiency in wealth between the very rich and the very poor. I mean, it's a large gap, almost as big now as it was then.
We're heading in that direction. We're back to the 1920s, so we're kind of going back in time. And the data isn't as good earlier, but we're heading in that direction. Now, we still have a much larger middle class than they had in the late 19th and early 20th century, but we've been working on it, and Wisconsin has, based, depending on the year, either the fastest shrinking middle class in the country or, in the top 5 in the whole country.
American political discourse, Robert, has it been this bad? I mean, did your studies over the course of time, did you see it this vitriolic?
It's been really bad through different mediums of communication. I mean, my goodness, what Adams and Jefferson said about each other through newspapers, through anonymous sources, was as bad as anything you see in the Trump era, despite their reputations, as founding fathers.
Of course, newspaper being what, the social media of the day back then?
Right. Well, yeah, or being able to have some hired guns. The newspapers were partisan in those days and often paid for. And so, really, I mean, when we had modern print industry newspapers, just the attacks, really dirty politics is not new at all. It's just, it's louder now and different now. It's unique that's coming directly from a president in office on his personal phone, so to speak.
Right.
But my goodness, it's been really bad for a long time. I mean, the major attack on Grover Cleveland was alleged adultery and having a child out of wedlock. There was a joke after the election, which was, it was a little ditty kind of thing where the little child is asking, "Mama, where's my pa?" And the response was, "Gone to the White House, ha, ha, ha."
Ooh, scandalous. But the targeting, is much more efficient now. I mean, you can get down to, the nth degree of any characteristic that you want to target as your market for whatever your product may be, and that would include misinformation, information, advertisements to buy and sell products. I think that's one of the big differences we have now is you're super targeted, and you weren't then. You had a newspaper back in the day; everyone got the one newspaper. But now you open up your email, you jump on your social media. If you click on something, you're going to see ads for it consistently. You're going to start to see your searches reinforced with data from these, big data companies.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem with academics is always yes and no, and it's more complicated, right? So you're right, this is novel in a lot of ways. But we understate the sophistication of previous ages. I mean, in the 19th century, after the invention of the telegraph, you had immediate reporting with extra editions of newspapers that within hours were reporting news. So it wasn't all on horseback weeks later, right? And you had other kinds of targeting. You had, in New York City, you had 18 daily newspapers in the heyday, and you had a ton of ethnic newspapers, which of course were micro-targeting. So there was and you had newspapers just for African Americans. And so, for example, there was targeting and sophisticated mass communications. It was just different. What changed, what kind of in many ways killed the progressive era was corporations got wise and got the idea they needed to protect themselves from scandal. And so they created modern public relations and advertising. And everything we're seeing in politics now with the micro-targeting, it was all pioneered by advertisers who were micro-targeting for Windex and Tide years and years before. And so this really is the modern advertising mass communication age continuing to spin in terms of its sophistication. But you're right. You can now, I mean, it's ridiculous what even a group like Citizen Action Wisconsin can do. I mean, we can do digital ads or Facebook ads that are targeted to the voter file based on people's demographics and voter preferences and likelihood to vote. Like we can mail them a letter. I mean, in other words, so only the people we want to see it can see it and only pay for those people to see it.
Very efficient for the dollars.
Right. Way more efficient. Yeah. You don't have to buy broadcast television anymore. When broadcast television ads, 95% of the people, I'm just guessing, more than that probably, you're talking to either aren't going to vote no matter what, or are going to vote for one candidate or another no matter what, and are waste, right? And you're talking to very few of the people you're trying to persuade either to vote at all or to choose their candidate preference.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That's not Crute. That's Robert Kraig, Executive Director from Citizen Action of Wisconsin. He's going to stick around here for the 3 o'clock hour at least. We'll see what happens. Okay, so as we see this pendulum go back and forth between progressives and conservatives, do you see, it seems like we're repeating history. Mentioned the robber barons. What about pulling it back to the more progressive? Do we have to wait until there's an event, or is it, what is the drag on the swing to conservatism, and vice versa? What pushes it back towards conservatism?
Great question, and I don't believe in the pendulum theory, Dom, where it's inevitable. It just swings back and forth and everything's equal.
Well, that makes it easy to talk about, but yeah, sure, it's more dynamic
There are
than that.
swings, though, but it seems like the pendulum has been moving from the center to the far right rather than all the way back, like to the far left, at least as far as who's governing the country, right? And so we have had a very conservative era since the 1970s, late 1970s, when the big billionaires got organized and decided to take the country back because we had the most equal era of economic growth and prosperity from the end of World War II until the 1970s. So that was a very progressive era, relatively speaking. Forget about the foreign policy and the Cold War. I mean, domestically and economically.
Right.
But now we had a very conservative era. Maybe they're reaching, the limits because their ideology can't govern, right? It leads to worse and worse conditions and more inequality, which is what happened to the robber barons. But it's partly that you have to, the only check against economic power, right, is democracy, which means you have to build up that capacity of civil society to be a check against big economic power. If there's any mission of the Koch brothers and all of their ilk, it is to permanently change the rules. So democracy cannot check economic power. But then you mentioned events. Events are critical, but you have to have the right setup for the events to matter. So it's both. I think the Great Recession was the right event, but we weren't ready to take full advantage of it the way the Great Depression was taken advantage of.
We're going to need more than 22% of the people voting in a Wisconsin primary to push anything back.
That's right.
And as good of a number, quote unquote, as that is terrible.
Right.
We get the government we deserve, and at 22%, we deserve Donald Trump in some ways. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. That's Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. He's going to stick around. You can join us if you choose. Phone lines are open. Talk or text the party line, 844-967-2789. This is Real Resistance Radio.
If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that learning things never taught me nothing, and books is the worst.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Ever worry that the anonymous millionaires are setting the agenda for our community with little or no accountability? I do. That's why I joined Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. My fellow members and I want to build a powerful and lasting progressive movement. Together, we can help determine the agenda in our own communities. Then we work with professional organizers and a team of leading strategists to make that agenda happen. We're working on health care, economic justice, child poverty, electing progressive candidates, and more. And our Radioactive campaign supports this station and the Resistance Radio Network. So, won't you come help us build a movement?
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwy.org.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Do you love public education? Do you want to support your schools? Then you should support the people who make them work. You should support teachers and their unions. Teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions, and when the school bell rings, it is crucial that teachers do not check their rights at the door. The ability to organize and advocate around issues that improve the quality of a teacher's workplace will increase opportunities for students and make schools safer for everyone. Stand with teachers, stand with WEAC Region 7.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's three big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming live on the YouTube and Facebook pages. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio on the party line to talk or text. Gotta love the technology. 844-967-2789. In studio, Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin, a friend of ours, a supporter of ours. Robert, thanks for coming back, man.
Great to be here.
We talked before we went to break the primary. 22% of voting eligible voters in Wisconsin went out, took the time to cast a vote. And I get it. It's it's off season. It's a primary. Let the party decide who's got time. But that just seems like an atrocious number. And we talked about the history of I guess civil engagement, and it seems like we're very low right now. Maybe lots of distractions. What do you attribute that to?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, there's a long historical challenge to this. Actually, turnout was way higher in the 19th century. I mean, much higher. But voting in elections were more like big street festivals where where whole communities were involved. In fact, there's a whole school of thought in among some historians that trying to make elections only about facts and issues actually turned off a lot of voters and drove them away from politics. But we are talking about ranges, right? I mean, there have been times where turnout goes up much higher. It is problematic, though, and it's part. You can't just blame voters. You can also say, look, there are whole parts of the system that don't have an interest in engaging voters. They hope they'll stay home. In fact, they're working to keep them home.
Right.
And in addition to that, you have to give people some sense they have a stake in these elections, which means state government, local government, national government matter in their lives. And there were a lot of post-2016 election interviews, including in the African-American community in Milwaukee, where folks said, look, I got out, I voted for Obama, and things got worse around here. I don't think it makes any difference. And that's not that's not just not being a good citizen or something like that. That is literally because it's not. It can't just be you have a duty to vote and it makes no difference. You have to feel like politics and elections and government matter to you and your family and your friends and their sense of opportunity and them making it along in the world. So we have to inspire people.
Do you think culturally we're doing that, be it in our public education, be it in our families and our homes, around the dining room table? It seems like, it's religion, sex, and politics are the things that you're not supposed to talk about. But I'm thinking to myself, well, what else would we talk about?
No, I think it goes way back, way beyond this era, right? The idea that it's impolite to talk about politics. I mean, if we're the world's first greatest large-scale democracy, which is supposed to be one of the United States' great contributions to the world, then you think we'd be proud to talk about politics and government and elections, et cetera. And in addition, the win at any cost, the consultants on both sides that just run, like make every Supreme Court and every Attorney General race about child molesters. So the only question is, the mystery will be, how will child molesters be connected to the candidate? Not that they will be. Well, that makes people cynical, right? And Governor Walker getting up there, and he didn't invent this, but he's just standard issue, right? I'm going to say anything and do anything, posture in any way to win, period. That just turns people off.
But for Trump, it turned people on to at least his supporters.
They like
we're
his
going to build
honesty.
that wall, and I was at the rallies off the cuff, and we're going to make Mexico pay for it. And you thought you got a reaction when he said we're going to build the wall. Once he said Mexico's going to pay for it, the crowd just went wild.
Well, the Trump thing is not like conventional politics, right? They don't make these wild accusations, wild claims, these bitter personal insults on the debate stage, et cetera, these attacks on the media and reporters, right? All reporters, right?
Well, most reporters.
Yes, okay, except the ones that are paid for, right? The House reporters, the House organ, so to speak. But they like Trump because Trump broke all these rules. And so we have to look at that. It's a little like professional wrestling, which Trump also was the only president who was a professional wrestling star briefly. Didn't he beat up Vince McMahon
at one point? He shaved his head, yeah.
So even though it's not something that builds a great civil society or a democracy, it's interesting so many people were inspired by the fact that this man would violate all the rules and say anything, right? And I don't understand why it's appealing at all, personally, but apparently it was for a certain part of our society.
And we fiddle as the city burns. We are the Devil's Advocates. That's Robert Kraig. You are going to be on the phones with us. We'll get to some callers next. Toll free 844-967-2789. We are Resistance Radio. We'll be right back.
Bully! Bully! Yes, bully!
Probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for the American worker.
Boy, it's like they're so ideological that they subvert their own interests.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
You are listening to 1510 AM WRRD Waukesha, Milwaukee, and 1580 AM WTTN Columbus, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio Network.
Here at Bounce Milwaukee, we not only want families and friends to build connections, we also want to grow those connections in our community. That's why every Wednesday night from 5 to 8 p.m., we host Refuel the Resistance. It's a great chance to have a drink in our arcade bar, try something from our fantastic restaurant, connect with progressive activists, and support local organizations. For more information about Bounce Milwaukee's Refuel the Resistance, visit us at bouncemilwaukee.com or call 414-312-4357.
Only in the forest can you see this. And this. And this. But nothing beats the moment you see that.
Cool!
That's your child's eyes opening up to a world of possibilities.
I didn't know it could do that!
Because one trip to the forest can spark a world of difference.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go, like hiking, canoeing, fishing, or camping. Or create your own adventure with family and friends, and you might just see this. Your moment's out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gostad. Flash flood watch is in effect for most of southeastern Wisconsin and south central Wisconsin until tomorrow morning at 9. Many areas received up to 9 inches of rain yesterday and will likely get more today. 2 African-American ministers from Milwaukee are accusing the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department of treating them like criminals because of their race. The Baptist ministers were on their way home from fishing in May when they got a flat tire. The Waukesha County Sheriff's deputy pulled over, but instead of offering assistance, asked if he could see their IDs and if they had any weapons. Tuesday, partly sunny with a chance of rain throughout the day. Highs in the upper 80s in Milwaukee, low 80s in Madison. Tonight, rain likely, lows in the mid 60s in Milwaukee, low 60s in Madison. Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a 30% chance of rain in Milwaukee. Partly sunny for Madison, much cooler with highs only around 70 degrees. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gostad.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open, 844-967-2789. If you want to join us on Real Resistance Radio, you can be like our pal Paul from Milwaukee. Hey, Paul, thanks for calling. You are on with Dr. Robert Kraig from Citizen Action of Wisconsin. Welcome back, Paul.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Good, man.
Good, good. And welcome to Dr. Kraig. It's good to see you on here.
Great. Glad to be here. A lot of fun. Don't usually get this level of fun. More fun than humans should be allowed to have.
Lots of fun, yeah. And Citizens Action must be rolling the dough to afford that expensive ad I just heard.
I don't know. We recorded it right here in the state-of-the-art Resistance Radio studios.
I thought it turned out very well, Paul. What'd you think? You going to join now?
Oh, well, we'll think about it. Anyways, yeah, good to hear the packing house ad on there also.
Yeah.
Have you ever been down there?
I have not, but I'm going to go.
It's quite a diverse nightclub, I guess you'd call it, with some great music. Anyways, I would like to ask Dr. Kraig a question. The question is, since you're a rhetoric expert, how would you describe Scott Walker's rhetoric?
That's a very good question. I believe I would describe it as poll-tested.
Yes.
I would describe it as, he's good at, and this is because of the immense amount of message research that the right-wing infrastructure has done for the last 40 years, he's good at stating an overall principle that would seem agreeable to people. Like what people really want is the independence of having a job and being able to make their own way in life, that kind of principle. And that'll be followed by some sort of policy that's just punitive and attacks people who need a leg up. But he states an attractive principle and justification for it better than a lot of Democratic politicians who get mired in facts real quickly and don't really say what they're about. But I mean, he's mostly kind of it's a pretty mercenary kind of discourse where he's trying to figure out how he's going to position himself in order to hold on to office and try to stay a little above 50% in the polls.
How would you describe his rhetoric when he's answering questions in public and he knows that he has to do something about that in answering that question?
Well, he hardly ever goes in what we would call public. In other words, since the recall, most of the events have been on private land owned by companies with handpicked audiences. And you may remember part of his defense of all the plane rides has been he was going to
town
listening
halls,
sessions. Right,
listening
to
sessions.
listen to the handpicked people who are going to. And he does kind of have this attitude. He goes, "That's what I'm not." He once got really upset about. Something about, I think it was an economic issue where he goes, "I'm not hearing that at all as I go around the state." Well, yes, because you're not in touch with anyone. He does get a little flustered. I mean, there was an incident in his reelect in 2014 where he kind of imploded on the Medicaid issue, where he was trying to explain why he gave back the money. And he got all tongue-tied, and we actually did a digital ad that got like over 500,000 views based on it. But it was because there was one really aggressive reporter at the NBC affiliate in Madison who is now, of course, I think graduated to Chicago, as some of our best TV reporters tend to do. But he just a little flustered if someone really asks him a tough question because he rarely has to encounter them.
Do you remember the Nelson interview up in, I think, Green Bay or Appleton?
Where yes,
yeah,
where Thomas Nelson,
executive?
the county exec, started disagreeing with him publicly in the middle of the thing, and then Walker got all very defensive and started taking shots at him in the middle of his pitch.
So he has spent $66,000 on going to closed so-called town hall meetings, right?
Yeah, listening sessions or something like that. Yes.
That should be criminal because the taxpayer money is supposed to be for everyone, correct?
I think the crime in this, and this is something governors and presidents do, but it's getting worse, is essentially using public money, which is what that is, for campaign purposes. So,
and then trying to hide behind it and say, "Oh no, this is not a campaign." Of course, we all know that it is. Thanks for the call, Paul. But that happens all the time, right? I mean, this isn't anything new. I mean, it seems to be an exorbitant amount of, the hundreds of thousands of dollars this guy's using a plane to fly around. And it's like some of these trips were 25 miles.
Yeah, which is amazing. So, I mean, they've been pushing the lines for decades now, presidents and governors, on how they can campaign on public time, essentially. And their issue, work, and positioning, and what they introduce as a bill and what in the budget is designed for the campaign. But Walker, as usual, and Trump especially, pushed the envelope even further. I mean, you've heard the bills to Mar-a-Lago, which is a Trump enterprise that we're paying, right? In order for him
to go golfing.
Yes, to go down there.
Remember how often
everyone.
Obama went golfing? Remember what a big problem that was?
Well, Trump attacked it constantly, right?
Oh, and he's never going to leave the White House because he has so much work to do, right?
Because I'm going to be working for you. I'm not going to have time to go play golf. Believe me.
Thank you, Fancy Brian. That is what I'm talking about. Right? I mean, it's pure hypocrisy, but because it's politics and it's their guy or it's our guy or it's that guy, then it becomes a issue or non-issue depending on our perspective and political persuasion. I mean, isn't there any consistency anymore? I mean, I'd like to think I'm a little consistent. I think maybe Obama should not have golfed as much, and maybe Trump should not golf as much. But either way, Trump certainly shouldn't be saying what he was saying and then go golfing more than Obama.
No, I mean, it was okay for Gerald Ford to go on a constant golfing tour after he was president, right? Apparently, but during, especially when you attack based on it. But I do think it gets to a Walker vulnerability. it's hard to get a third term. He can't seem fresh anymore, or like problems that in the state aren't problems he is responsible for.
The ham sandwich on the brown paper bag isn't going to work this time, perhaps.
And so I think there is this sense that he's just purely a politician, which he is.
Of course.
I mean, but more people are getting that sense. And so if you want someone who is just relentlessly wants to hold power no matter what, no matter the impact on the state, it's a problem for him. And I think the ad so far by both the independent groups that are up and Evers are right to go after that. And education and healthcare are the top issues. But probably the biggest question is simply Walker fatigue and people seeing that this guy is just a pure politician. I mean, that's what he does and all he does, really.
And he's good at it. I mean, you cannot deny that. I mean, he's won some tough elections here in the state of Wisconsin. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin, joins me in studio. You brought up the health care. Let's talk about this for a moment. My understanding, Tony Evers put out a new ad, and Walker, well, he's so mad at he's tweeting about it, Robert. What do you understand about that story?
Yeah, and we did a major press event with Tony Evers this morning because Citizen Action Wisconsin, our top issue is health care. And so we saw the media. I got to stand there and hear all the media afterwards, of course, hammer Tony with their various questions. But Walker didn't like the ad, which started last night, I believe. And the ad makes it clear that Minnesota took the Medicaid money and did a lot of other things other than that, but took the money. Wisconsin didn't. And you pay almost 50% more in Wisconsin than you do in Minnesota. And we've been at Citizen Action Wisconsin. We started reporting that early on. I mean, maybe 5-6 years ago, and we did a series of reports, and the right-wing infrastructure, the fake think tanks, have been attacking it ever since, trying to shoot it down. So this is sort of a sensitive point because Minnesota has taken the progressive approach on healthcare, a lot of issues, whereas Walker, of course, has taken the opposite.
I mean, it's almost a side-by-side comparison, right?
Yeah, and they're similarly sized states. They have a lot of similarities. There are some differences, but there are a lot of there's no more similar state to Wisconsin than Minnesota. And so Walker, of course, has pivoted on health care, where all of a sudden he's doing the work to stabilize the Affordable Care Act after 7 years of sabotage, right?
But his attorney general is actively in a lawsuit to get rid of it.
He approved the lawsuit to destroy it, joining that lawsuit at the same day, I believe, that he also introduced his reinsurance plan, which is a corporate subsidy designed to lower costs, which he is claiming is the panacea. And so, but he felt like that, in fact, he had to do anything health care-wise. What does that tell you? Not that he started worrying about health care costs and having listening sessions where, my goodness, a lot of people are having trouble affording health care, worried about it. No. I think he read polling and said, I could lose on this issue, so I better pivot. Just like in education, I'm going to cut education. Then I'm going to do a one-time increase, one budget, and then say I'm the education governor. It's the same thing. Right.
But that's what makes me cynical, Robert. You know, and I guess some people maybe, you know, tune out when that happens too much. You get callous to it, and I'm just done with it. Me, I get a little more fired up about it, and I want to share my rage with other people to think, hey, you know, regardless of what you think on any sort of policy, you know, here is an activity that shows the man is a hypocrite. If you see a specific act over and over again showing what a hypocrite your candidate is, how can you continue to support that person? I guess it's because they want those, you know, those laws made. They support their philosophy, but does the vessel matter anymore? Given Scott Walker, or even to a more specific point, Donald Trump. I speak to conservatives all the time, and I wish you wouldn't tweet as much, and yeah, that looks bad. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But hell, the economy is good, the market's up, and I'm doing okay.
Well, one of our problems as progressives, we assume people are all weighing the issues and studying them and making their decision independently based on that, whereas group identity has a whole heck of a lot more to do with it than that. And you see that with Trump. People decide which is their group. What is their side? And then I'm on that side. So there's a whole bunch of people who think Trump is on their side, and therefore the people against Trump are on the other side, right? And so that's what the polarization is partly about. And so that requires an othering of the other side, which Walker and Trump are very good at, right? And then an identification with If you're on the right, you feel like, gee, I'm in with all those great successful people. I'm part of it at some level.
Or
right?
It's aspirational. I want to be part of that. So when I don't want those laws, those taxes applied to me when I get there, because I will have worked so hard to achieve, this income and this wealth, that I want to keep it for myself for when I am there. But so in the meantime, I'm down here. I'll support that because I ultimately hope to be there. It's aspirational.
It is, and there's a coded racism in it. Now, if it's in the old days, the dog whistle politics, I mean the old days before Trump, right? Walker's dog whistle, he says those people who aren't working in Milwaukee, things like that, we know there's a racial cast to that. Trump just straight out, particularly folks in Mexicans, just straight out says it. Takes that no dog whistle needed. But that is a piece of it. But I think that to overcome this, it can't just be about voting. This needs to be about, voting's the lowest level of civic participation. It needs to be developing vibrant social movements that give people an outlet, and they need to have an outlet and be involved, because in order not just to turn away, you have to feel like there's something you can do about it, and no one feels like they can do something alone.
Yeah.
So joining groups, Citizen Action is just one example. Social justice groups that together figure out how to have power is crucial.
Well, let's get some more into that. Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. We'll talk a little bit more about that group, what you can do to get involved. Get involved, stay active, stay motivated, share your rage, your pain. There's lots of folks out there that think like you do. And hell, next time you go to the polls, bring a friend, bring 2 friends. We got to do better than 22%. We are the Devil's Advocates. Real Resistance Radio phone lines open 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
How could you do this to us after everything we've done for you?
Oh, they drove a dump truck full of money up to my house. I'm not made of stone.
And they literally and figuratively get hooked, and once they get hooked, there's no going back.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamsters Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Looking for a job worth talking about? Teaching is creative, collaborative, and intellectually challenging. See why teachers have better work stories at teachdfw.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Everybody buckle up. Mom. Buckle up.
Let's go.
Buckle up.
Can we go to the store? Mom,
buckle
can we get
up.
some ice cream?
Everybody, buckle up.
A lot goes on in the car, but you're in control. So only move when you hear the click that says they're buckled in. Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
Music is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. My name is Harvey Lauer, and I'm 82. As a blind person, you have to be aware that nobody can tell you what you can or can't do. You really have to try things. My folks got me a little radio in 1940, and that was the best Christmas present I ever got. When I was 11 years old is when I started to play music, play the piano, and then the accordion, and then the cello. My wife, who was also blind, was a good cook. When she died, that's when I started Meals on Wheels. America, let's do lunch.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on Real Resistance Radio. Tune in Sundays for Meet the Press with Chuck Todd from 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the Jeff Santos Show, kicking ass for the middle class from 12 to 3 p.m. And Citizen Action's Battleground Wisconsin rages from 3 to 4 p.m. Get your groove on with Stu Man PM, politics and music, 4 to 6 p.m. with Stu Daniels. Mandatory listening, always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Follow me into the desert as thirsty as you are.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, streaming online. We are on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio, and always on the party lines at 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY, like the political party, because that's what it feels like when our pal Robert Kraig, Executive Director from Citizen Action of Wisconsin, joins me in studio. Robert, I love having you in here, man. Thanks for joining me.
It's a lot of fun. This is the funnest show on the air.
We talked about, coalescing, getting together with the group to stay involved, to stay motivated, to feel like you're making a difference, or at least trying. Citizen Action of Wisconsin, you are the executive director thereof. Robert, tell us a little bit about that group and what you offer and what your point is, what your mission is.
And I think all of us are pretty powerless alone. Everyone's had the experience of, let's call Ron Johnson. Right. And I know he's nice and comes on the show, but he still doesn't vote very well, right?
No, right.
And so as opposed to an organized group, there's a strategy to deal with Ron Johnson or to really move an issue. And so we're committed to that. We've been around 35 years. We're a statewide organization. We've reinvented ourselves numerous times. I was not there the whole 35 years, just to be clear.
Thank you for that.
We used to be like a big statewide canvas, but now, and that model didn't work anymore. That was going knocking on doors and getting dollars from people, right? Now we have a model which is actually a lot of other states want to adopt, a lot of other groups all over the country, called an organizing co-op, where they're self-governed, where people get together and they give sustaining donations, an average of $20 a month, and they have a role in decision making. And there's an organizer with each co-op that we have them all over the state now. So we're building both rural power and urban power, which you need in Wisconsin to win. That's the balance of power.
All under the Citizen Action of Wisconsin.
Yes, as organizing
umbrella.
Citizen Action, organizing co-ops, but they're all under our organization. And so we have a big one in Milwaukee, and we have a specific one within the Milwaukee Co-op dedicated to healthcare. We also have a Latino caucus, Acción Ciudadano of our Milwaukee Co-op, which is very active. And you can work with people not just in your community, but across the state on strategies. So we think about where we want to go long term, like guarantee healthcare as a right, just for example, and how we would start to get there. So we think you need to get to Medicare for all, which means a much more public system, much less role for insurance companies and prescription drug manufacturers, all the people profiting on denying people coverage and care and medication.
There's good money in that,
the current
it turns
system.
out.
Very good. Not so much if you insure people who might be sick, which is, of course, the pre-existing condition issue. That's why they didn't want to insure those folks. And we figured out that, or came up with a strategy that's worked very well, that we could, as a step towards Medicare for all, open up Magicare to everyone as an option, a public option, both for businesses, small businesses, most of them can't afford health insurance, and for individuals. And it would be 40 to 100% cheaper than private insurance if you made it an option on the Affordable Care Act Marketplace Exchange. So all the candidates for governor on the Democratic side endorsed it and ran on it. Tony Evers supports it. And so that's a way of and we see it as a step towards Medicare for all that all Democrats can support. So if Tony Evers is governor, then we'll be working to try to make sure we get managed care public option so we can start moving towards a more and more public system while making reforms that actually help people in the short term. And so we're trying to break down every issue that way: climate and the economy, fair voting, everything else we work on. We work on a whole variety of issues because our members have so much say in what we do.
Yeah, and they're going to have issues that motivate them, perhaps more than others. Now, I know there's citizen action groups around the country. Is there a national affiliation? How does that work?
Well, there used to be a national citizen action. There isn't anymore. With our name, and I was part of creating this. There's a merged network of organizing groups like ours called People's Action that we're part of, and their national network. Chicago is the main headquarters, and so I'm actually the treasurer of the board, and I'm heavily involved in actually merging a lot of groups into it. So it's working to try to make sure we build power in every state, because we can't do much just in Wisconsin unless our friends in Iowa, Illinois, Arizona, a lot of other states are also pulling in the same direction. And that's also an opportunity for our members to go to big conventions, People's Action conventions and conferences, and meet a whole lot of other people from other states trying to do the same thing in their own state and to build national power as well.
Robert Kraig, if people want to get involved with Citizen Action, how would they go about doing so?
Very active Facebook page, so just like us on Facebook. You can follow us. Our website is citizenactionwi.org, or just Google Citizen Action of Wisconsin. And you can, if you're not ready to join yet or join a co-op, you can just indicate interest, and an organizer will talk to you, and you can start to figure it out, or just come to a couple meetings. There's a lot of things you can do with us.
Robert, I know we talked about an hour, but you want to stick around for the 4 o'clock hour? We got a lot of stuff to talk about if you can.
Can't resist that invitation.
All right, we'll get to some new polling and some topics, but Fancy Brian, I understand we have a weather update. Let's get to it. Would you please, sir?
Yes, there is a National Weather Service in Milwaukee. Sullivan has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for southeastern Columbia County in all south central Wisconsin, northwestern Dodge County in southeastern Wisconsin until 4:30 p.m. At 3:44, severe thunderstorms are located along a line extending from Randolph to near Poynette, moving east at 35 miles per hour. There's some hail. There's some wind up to 60 miles an hour in Beaver Dam, Mayville, Columbus, Horicon, Juneau, Poynette, Randolph, Fall River, Teresa, Rio, Cambria, Burnett, Fox Lake, Arlington, Reeseville, Otsego, Kleiman, Friesland, Lowell, and Doylestown. We're talking about hail of 1 inch and 60-mile-an-hour winds.
Wow. Thank you, Brian. Folks, be careful out there. You know the drill. The weather keeps coming. We are the Devil's Advocates. Robert Kraig, Citizen Action, going to stick around in the 4 o'clock hour. You can join us as well. 844-967-2789. The political party continues.
These citizens deserve so much better.
If you're like a lot of companies, you know you need IT, but you aren't sure where to start. That's where Five Nines comes in. Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO. For almost 15 years, Five Nines has been providing IT solutions to companies just like yours. We'll show you the solutions that are right for your business and give you the roadmap to success in the future. Find us at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
I'm afraid right now for the future of my children's generation and those to come.
In this age of mass school shootings, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker offers the same bold agenda of the National Rifle Association.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts, and more importantly in your prayers.
While Walker offers platitudes, he blocks meaningful gun safety legislation.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA, not only in my state, but across the country. And I'm proud of my A+ ranking as a governor.
Walker weakened the gun laws in Wisconsin, and then he got $3.5 million worth of NRA support.
there have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures.
Scott Walker, you are not one of them. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org. You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at Real Resistance Radio.
Maria revised. Social media warned. I'm Mike Moss. Puerto Rico's Governor Ricardo Rosella Maria says the official death toll from Hurricane Maria will be revised in the wake of a report from George Washington University.
We will take the 2,975 number as the official estimate.
The previous death toll was listed at 64. President Trump is calling out social media, charging Google with rigging its searches to block stories favorable to him.
We have literally thousands and thousands of complaints coming in. And you just can't do that. So I think that Google and Twitter and Facebook, they're really treading on very, very troubled territory, and they have to be careful. It's not fair to large portions of the population.
Google says there is no political bias programmed into its search engine. Trump is threatening the industry with regulation. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau says his nation would like to come to a new trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico.
We have been encouraged by the progress made by our NAFTA partners over the past weeks. This was an important step to moving forward on renegotiating and improving NAFTA.
The U.S. and Mexico have reached a preliminary agreement. Senate Republican leaders are telling the president to back off threats to fire Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
The idea that they could get a new Attorney General confirmed, that even they could get every Republican to support any nominee, no matter how good the nominee was, right now leadership doesn't think that's available, and because of that, the leader and most of his team saying, hey, leave this alone, Mr. President.
Correspondent Phil Mattingly. A white former Texas police officer has been found guilty of murder for fatally shooting unarmed black teenager Jordan Edwards last year. Roy Oliver was fired days after the shooting, which his partner testified was unnecessary. On Wall Street, the Dow closed up 14, S&P up 1, NASDAQ up 12.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
91 Bible.
Tributes to the late Senator John McCain from the floor of the U.S. Senate.
An emotional Senator Lindsey Graham, who'd grown close to John McCain in recent years via their support for the military, but also a willingness to buck their party, including President Trump.
Don't look to me to replace this man. Look to me to remember what he was all about and try to follow in his footsteps. Join the march if you want to help the country. Be more like John McCain.
Several GOP senators, including fellow Arizonan Jeff Flake, who are at times like McCain in taking on the president and party line thinking, have decided to retire. In fact, the primary to replace Flake is today. Bob Costantini, Washington.
The newspaper industry has been fighting tariffs on Canadian newsprint for months, claiming it will devastate an already troubled business. U.S. International Trade Commission is expected to decide tomorrow whether imports of a type of Canadian paper are hurting producers. They could reverse the tariffs.
I'm Jesse Pica-Holz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I'm a retired school psychologist, and helping people was my thing. After my stroke, when Meals on Wheels started, I was on the other end of the stick, so to speak. My name is Julius Gaines, creative writer, poet, photographer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
The following program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Real Resistance Radio Hour 2. Phone lines are always open, 844-967-2789. We are going to continue our conversation with our friend, Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. Robert, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Always a lot of fun.
Healthcare. Let's talk about fun things like healthcare. Yeah. Have I fallen into the geek quality now? Because I never actually considered much about healthcare. I growing up, I was fairly healthy, didn't really break any bones and have any, diseases, and my family around me was fairly healthy as well. So I wasn't touched with the tragedy that can occur when terrible things can and do happen, regardless of how good you are. If you eat your vegetables, bad things happen to good people. I was not impacted, but of course we know lots of people are, and people go through health challenges in their lives that they can do nothing about, and the way our system was set up, and is still technically set up, bankruptcies. I mean, it's like the system, the healthcare system, the life system, just sucks every dollar that it can out of you. And when there's nothing left to give, you squeeze it out, you declare bankruptcy, and what happens? Well, now you're on, Medicaid. So now you're on socialized medicine. So they privatize the profits, they socialize the loss or the high risk. And they take the best for the top, talking about the insurance companies and the medical and pharmaceuticals in the medical industry. Pardon me, Robert. So when the thought and talk of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act came around, certainly intriguing. But as you know, the individual that I am, Robert, I had an issue with the process, and we won't get into it a whole lot, but if you're going to use the Commerce Clause to try to justify this, because they didn't want to say, the Dems, President Obama specifically, didn't want to raise taxes. It's a big issue, right? I don't want to raise taxes. So it's a penalty. And so they go to the Supreme Court, and my interpretation of the whole thing, well, of course it's a tax. It's not a penalty. If it was a penalty, it'd be Commerce Clause. And if the government can be allowed to regulate your non-involvement in a marketplace, well, then they can do anything. It's pretty much my position on it. Now, that set aside, process matters. And we could get to a spot, for example, Medicare for all. Now, we can go through the process that, that our founders of this country built the framework around and go through that process, or we can get a dictator and say, we shall have Medicare for all. Well, I would, the end result would be the same, but I would take great umbrage with a dictator mandating that versus it coming up from the people through the process. But at the end of the day, as David Obey says, well, the ends justifies the means. We'll take any incremental step that we can. So that set aside now, I fail to see why, when we have Medicare for the elderly, Medicaid for the poor, we have government insurance for government employees, for the armed forces. I mean, we have, I did a rough count, I think around 130 million people on some sort of governmental supported insurance. It's not like we can't do this. Do you think that this is going to be an issue in this election? I'm not talking about the 2020. I'm talking about 2018, that this will drive turnout in some regard. And do you think people are leaning more towards a Medicare, or in the state of Wisconsin, a Badger Care for all?
Yes, and you said a lot about process and everything else there that I'll just jump to the bigger issue. I will say this. We are trying to make an 18th century governing structure work, and the folks who designed it, who were quite wise men, unfortunately they were all men and all white, right. But they were wise. They didn't expect it to last longer than 20 years, just to be clear. I mean the structure itself, I don't mean the country. And so the fact that we're still messing around with all the checks and balances when we're trying to run a modern 21st century society is a bit of a mess. And I think there is some sort of way to run a more efficient, effective democracy that's not dictatorship, okay? And Obama did have kind of this problem that he had a unified Republican Party that was against Obamacare, despite the fact it had a whole bunch of Republican ideas in it, because it was Obama's.
Right.
And once they named it Obamacare, no one could support it, right?
A black Democratic president can't have that.
And you had some who wanted, who were tiptoeing around, like Chuck Grassley from Iowa, supporting it, and all they had to do was say, "Boo! The Tea Party is going to get you, Chuck." And all of a sudden, he believed in death panels. Remember the death panels?
Yes.
One of the words Sarah Palin added to the vocabulary. Yeah. She actually had a big linguistic impact, if you think about it, a number of different ways, despite other challenges. So, yes, we're in a situation where we have the worst of all worlds. We have a non-universal system that's way more expensive than any other, so we pay double what any other developed country pays, and people go bankrupt, and tons of people are uninsured, and people are insecure at all sorts of different points in their lives. If they ever lose or leave for any reason the job that gives them good health insurance, then they're suddenly vulnerable, and then once they're branded with the pre-existing condition, which is everyone eventually, then the insurance companies can could have before decided not to insure them.
And may again, depending on what happens.
Though fascinatingly, Leah Vukmir says things were all hunky-dory and people with pre-existing were protected until we had Obamacare, which is really counterfactual history, right?
Well, and Governor Walker's the education governor. So, I mean, we're used to this topsy-turvy linguistic.
But this weird turn in which once Obamacare, Affordable Care Act became law, and it was very imperfect, it tried, the constitutional issues you just raised, Dom, are because they tried to use the market. As you pointed out, just expanding Medicare, there's no constitutional issue with that at all, right? And the complexity was done to try to appease Republicans, and none of them supported it because they didn't want President Obama to have a victory. And it was harder to do. It's not been the most successful of reforms, though it's way better than before because at least there's discrimination is banned. You have a guarantee that's a pretty decent policy that covers everything, and they can't just deny you coverage or throw you off because you've been sick or get sick. So it's better, but it still needs to improve a great deal. The weird thing is the Republicans overinterpreted its unpopularity, which was about people seeing what was wrong with it. Now, it didn't go far enough, right?
The website didn't work, Robert. The first couple of days were terrible.
And the story of that and how that happened is not a good tale for government, and that delegitimizes government further. So that was a self-inflicted wound, right? But understandable once you read about it, but still, nonetheless.
Right.
But they thought, therefore, the public's with us. They then ran on, we're going to give you better health care for less. I mean, Ron Johnson ran like a progressive, right, in his campaign against Feingold, which he trailed the whole race.
You're talking about like repeal, replace, that whole thing?
Yeah, but further, he said it was good. He had people with testimonials about their health insurance was too expensive. Like, literally, it was like an old-time progressive health care ad, right?
He repeated a story of one couple that had a particular issue with the health care law, yes.
But then they did this bait and switch, where they didn't do any of that, and they were just going to take it away and cause 30 million people to lose their health coverage. And then they found out, because people suddenly said, hey, we like our health coverage, and we want to go further, actually. And so the interesting thing is that the polling numbers for healthcare being a right that the federal government has to guarantee are at record levels. And the biggest change has been among Republicans who make less than $70,000 a year, because they were told by their own leaders that we're going to give you better health care for cheaper because we get the government out of the way, right? So on and so forth. And so there's a real problem where it is, we should return to this, with the resistance that stopped the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, with John McCain dealing the decisive blow, right? The thumbs down, right? Literally, and I should say that there's a good story about McCain on that, actually, but literally they had all the power. It was their top issue. They were deeply committed to doing what the president was, and they still couldn't do it, which really tells you something. There's still, if you have enough of a Democratic outpouring, a way to stop something like that from happening. But now they're stuck, and that's why Walker read the tea leaves and said, I'm gonna change my position. I'm gonna be for making healthcare more affordable in the Affordable Care Act, which is how he's trying to campaign.
But if he really wanted to do that, of course, he could just accept the Medicaid expansion.
Well, he doesn't want to do it. He wants to position himself as being for it, right? And he still wants to run for president, so and he thinks that he has to be further right than that. But there's a story about McCain, since we're honoring him, right? Yes. Where he literally said he went over apparently to Schumer and to one other, I think a member of the Armed Forces Committee, and said before he did the thumbs down, or right after, he goes, I'm going to put this sick puppy down, or sick dog down, but you better not mess with me on military appropriations, which sounds like the U.S. Senate to me.
Right. Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. Robert Kraig, Executive Director from Citizen Action of Wisconsin, sticking around with me for a little while longer. Curdy's out on vacation, well-deserved, sir. You can join us on the phones, 844-967-2789. We're talking a little healthcare. Perhaps continue this conversation on this topic for a little bit longer, Robert. The Koch brothers, the libertarian-funded study of Medicare for All didn't quite turn out as bad as I think they hoped it would. Perhaps we'll talk about that a little bit more and take more of your calls. Once again, we are the Devil's Advocates, Real Resistance Radio, 844-967-2789.
Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated. Whoever says that is a stupid idiot.
If you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything.
Hi, I'm Becky from Bounce, Milwaukee, and I want to be the first to invite you to our newest attraction, axe throwing at Fling Milwaukee. Bring your friends, date, co-workers, or family to experience the rush of throwing axes at Milwaukee's first indoor throwing arena. Open 6 days a week for corporate team building, bachelor and bachelorette parties, date night, or just a fun night out. More information at flingmilwaukee.com or 414-312-4357.
So, Jesse, why should someone buying a home pay for an agent when they can go online or call the number on a for sale sign?
Great questions. First of all, never call the number on a sign to see a home. That's the seller's agent, and they don't represent your interests. If they show you a home outside of an open house, you forfeit your ability to have someone negotiate in your corner at no cost to you.
Well, with interest rates still at historic lows, how can buyers still get a great deal and protect their rights?
Step 1, find a buyer's agent that you trust. Your agent will best find the home that fits your needs, anticipate problems, and negotiate on your behalf from offer through closing day. And most home listing contracts stipulate that the seller's agent pays for the buyer's commission.
Solidarity Realty. They're real, they're solid, they're honest. Whether buying or selling in Madison or Dane County, call Solidarity Realty, 608-284-9311, or find them at solidarityrealty.com.
Live via phone, he is former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel.
Firing Bob Mueller doesn't mean that the prosecution, the investigation goes away. Pardoning one individual does not mean that you undo everything that has been done before. So this notion that somehow by shutting down and by pardoning and by sort of stopping the process, you're also stopping the wheels of justice is simply, again, it's simply wrong.
The Devil's Advocates, weekday afternoons on 1510 AM, Wisconsin's Resistance Radio.
I would like to thank you, President Trump. I also want to express my thanks to Governor Walker.
Foxconn CEO Terry Goh is thankful to the Republicans who delivered his $4.5 billion in corporate welfare.
Thank you to Foxconn.
Scott Walker thanks the foreign corporation who received the largest corporate welfare subsidy in history.
Thank you, Mr. President.
What about thanking the hardworking Wisconsin taxpayers you saddled with a generation of debt for a project that may never be paid back?
People should be rushing to me and patting my back and say, hey, thank you, Mr. Foxconn.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212 and tell him no thank you to corporate welfare, no thank you to environmental rollbacks, no thank you to a project that may never be paid back, no thank you to Foxconn. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Driving means
freedom,
exploration,
fun,
pride,
flexibility,
travel,
protection,
ability,
friendship,
excitement,
escape,
independence.
Distracted driving means
danger,
recklessness,
irresponsible,
chaos, police, devastation, injury,
death.
Safe driving means staying alert and staying alive.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's the 420 break. I am joined in studio by our friend Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789. Robert, let's continue this health care conversation. We pulled up this study here, Mercatus organization. This is a Koch-funded organization,
it's
right?
Part of George Mason University, and if you read books like Nancy McLean's Dark Money, the Koch brothers decided to start creating academic centers so they would have more credibility. And this is the first thing they did, is try to buy a big piece of George Mason University, which is a public university in Northern Virginia.
And the headline from this study, Robert, Medicare for All would add approximately $32.6 trillion to the federal budget commitments during the first 10 years of implementation. My math said that's almost $3.3 trillion a year. And of course, the Republicans freak out. Robert, how could we possibly afford this? What would you say in response?
I love that they think we can afford endless Cold War military spending and things like Foxconn. That's fine, right? Just for example, or what they want to spend on. But here's the thing. This was set up by folks who wanted to prove that Medicare for all was not workable. Of course, it's an absurd idea. If we can do Medicare, we can do Medicare for all, right?
Right.
But assuming all the worst assumptions they could assume about how much savings there would be, what the value would be of negotiating costs with prescription drug companies,
economies
and with
of
providers,
scale, negotiation,
right? Being able to say to the big hospitals like Aurora, this is the price we're paying, right? We're not taking your odd calculations as to what your costs supposedly are, right? And all the various profit centers, they call it, built in, right? So, but assuming very little savings, right? And all of the worst assumptions, if you dig into the report, and Senator Tammy Baldwin, who is actually running unapologetically and boldly on Medicare for All, has done this and seen this. If you do that, it still says it will cost less money than the current system. So even the worst evaluation of Medicare for All says it's cheaper. And so the only difference I can see is the freedom to pay the insurance company and the drug company directly instead of have it through taxes. Because even their analysis says it would cost less, and it's the least generous analysis you could have.
So when the report comes out and the Republicans say this is going to increase the federal budget by $3.3 trillion per year, of course, what they're not saying is that, well, there will be a greater savings in premiums not paid to the insurance companies for the same services?
Yes, and medication bills not paid, $1,000 bills per pill not paid to the pharmaceutical industry, huge copays or surprise medical bills, right? When you find out, oops, someone in your own hospital that was in the chain of care was out of network and now they're billing you $10,000, right? All of that you're saving, right? And so you really should think about it as the people's budget. Like, what are we paying for health care? Not that the conservative position seems to be it's okay to pay private industry. But it's not okay to do it through your taxes. And in fact, once you have Medicare for All, you have a lot more ability to change and adapt to the system to make it work. I mean, that's why every other advanced industrial country pays at least half as much as we do for better care. And by the way, I love the rationing argument and the waiting list argument, because I don't know, every time I need to see a specialist, it seems like there's a couple-month wait, and you call, oh, well, there's another appointment available in December. I mean, this is within Aurora or anything else. So there are plenty of waiting lists here as well.
And we've heard from some of our listeners overseas or in Canada that challenge that premise that you got to sit there and wait. They say, and we've seen the postings on our Facebook pages, that's not the case, and they love their insurance. If we can do it for all these other, and again, it's not just the Medicare, it's the 100+ million people that are already at it through all these different services working for the government or municipalities or for the armed forces, whatever the case may be. We're already doing this, providing it. And ultimately, isn't that kind of the point? I mean, if we get as a country, as a buying block, wouldn't it make sense to pool the resources and squeeze the suppliers of the service and goods that we are buying? Isn't that what good negotiation is?
Yeah, well, not the art of the deal. I mean, good negotiation, right? So it's why other countries pay 40% less for prescription drugs than we do, because they are cutting deals. We're not. In fact, Bush's Medicare Part D forbid the federal government from bargaining.
Terrible. Why? What?
Because the pharmaceutical industry put that in. It's pure pork barrel politics.
In some regards,
else.
technically, the American people are subsidizing the lower costs of the same pills overseas.
Absolutely.
Because they're getting that jing here.
That is absolutely, positively right. And it gets down to this, right? Do you believe our democracy can do things like this anymore? Like just guarantee everyone health care, or do you believe it's impossible, right? And they know it's possible. They just don't want it to happen, because if you believe health care is a right, conservatives got nothing for you, and they're aware of that. So they have to throw out all these smoke screens and arguments because they can't deliver. The market will not deliver it, because the prescription drug industry, the insurance industry are out to maximize profits for their Wall Street investors, period, not cover people.
Is the term, and you can answer this question on the other side of the break here, Robert, is the term right, healthcare as a right, maybe that's a little strong. We'll ponder that when we get back. You're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio. You can join us on the phones at 844-967-2789. Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin, sticking around for a little bit more. Thanks. See, you got to be careful what you agree to. Sometimes it ends up being a little bit longer. We are the Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back.
People have worked on healthcare for many years. It's a very complicated situation.
Talk it out, man. kind of grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider, specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, save the food, we're helping to stop food waste. Save the food. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
I'm Jesse Pica-Holz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
Here's how you get them. If someone invites you for a cocktail, you bring them beer. If someone invites you to dinner, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy but know you need to move? Hi folks, this is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean, most are pet friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009 or visit cclmanagement.com today.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly, giving you an update on the severe weather watch. The severe thunderstorm watch 356 remains valid until 9 p.m. Central Standard Time this evening for the following areas in Wisconsin. This watch includes 16 counties in east central Wisconsin: Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, south central Wisconsin, Columbia, Dane, Green Lake, Iowa, Lafayette, Marquette, Sauk in southeast Wisconsin, Dodge, Jefferson, Milwaukee, Ozaukee, Washington, Waukesha. This includes the cities of Argyle, Baraboo, Barneveld. The entire southern area of Wisconsin is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 9 p.m. The aforementioned hail has moved on, but it is coming east this way. Keep an eye out, folks. We are under severe thunderstorm watch until 9 p.m. I'm Brian Kelly for Real Resistance Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio, and you can always join us on the phone lines, toll-free 844-967-2789, continuing our conversation with Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director at Citizen Action of Wisconsin. Robert, before we went to break, I was lamenting the term or the word right, healthcare as a right. And I think to myself, the Bill of Rights. The healthcare is not in there. We talk about rights. I think the freedom of the press, the right of free speech, the right to bear arms. Those are rights. I don't see any right to healthcare in the Constitution, and I get it. At least my interpretation. It's not necessarily a right. It's something that we decide to do as a society. But do you see it as a right? A right?
Well, I could do Constitution talk with you. So one of the reasons they didn't put a Bill of Rights with it that became very controversial, and then they had to add one, is because they were concerned that if you enumerated the rights, and there'd be an assumption there were no other rights other than the ones enumerated. Do you see what I mean? Because there were a lot of rights they weren't going to be able to list.
But it was the the limitations of government, not a only list of rights of individuals.
Right, and that changed over time. The 14th Amendment kind of made rights broader than just what the government can't do. But in that time, you're coming out of monarchy, so all of the powers and all of the fears of the government, right? It's way before you have these. The Founding Fathers did not anticipate giant corporations dominating the economy. In fact, they didn't even like the development of market capitalism, most of them, because it was starting to get going once they were older, after they had done all this. But anyway, obviously healthcare in those days was leeches, and, do you know what I mean, and hacksaws when you got gangrene, okay? And so it wasn't what it is now.
Right.
And we weren't a society, an aging society with a complicated high-tech healthcare system, right? In a situation where, you do have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right, as the declared goal here, that how are you free to live a self-determining life if you don't have access to health, and how do you do that without basic access to healthcare, right? And also there are a lot of people, as we know, who are differently abled at some point in their life. In fact, people are not, disability is something that comes at various stages. People get pre-existing conditions. And so if freedom is the ability to kind of live your dreams and determine your life and do whatever you would like to do, right, if you can figure it out, then it seems like some way to get access to health care is absolutely fundamental. And we know that communities that don't have it have way higher death rates. And isn't that a fundamental abrogation of freedom? Right? If
you
some
die,
people,
yeah, you don't have any freedom if you're dead.
Or a lot of your friends or your relatives die unnecessarily.
Sure.
Right? So it seems like it's a central freedom. Most people think that. You're right. It's a qualified right in that most people think there's something you ought to do to get it. Right? But look, Medicare, we did decide, because it used to be that 2/3 of seniors didn't have health insurance and couldn't afford it. Why couldn't they? Because they weren't exactly something insurance companies wanted. Let's go and insure all the old people. Then you'll be going bankrupt, right?
Right.
And so we decided the only way to do it was for the government to guarantee health care once you were 65 or older, right? And so it's the same sort of, and we also decided that poor people, low-income people, didn't have a way to get health care because it was connected to work in the United States. So we created Medicaid, and we expanded both over the years. So if you look at what's happening now with people not going down to the plant and staying there 40 years and getting good health care at the plant, right, with the one job at GM or would have been A.O. Smith or something like that.
It doesn't happen anymore. Our pal Earl was over at A.O. Smith forever.
Right.
That career choice, that option just doesn't seem to be there anymore, Robert.
And whenever you have, you're at a place where you, for whatever reason, you decide to write a book, start a radio station, what have you, right, take care of a sick parent.
Yeah.
If you don't have good insurance at work, then you have to buy it on your own. And before, it was the wild, wild west. The insurance companies decide whether they can profit from you or not and what kind of cheap insurance to give you that is full of holes, right, versus what we've done now, which at least say there's somewhere to go, the Affordable Care Act Marketplace or Medicaid if you're low enough income, right? And so it just seems like in our society, and the polling is strong on this, that people think that it's the government's role to guarantee everyone has a way to get health care no matter what, and the government needs to do that. And conservatives are on the wrong side of this argument, and that is why this is probably going to be the biggest election issue in the midterms, both in Wisconsin state elections, but nationally in congressional races, because they tried to take it away from 30 million people and to re-legalize discrimination.
And that ended up being not too great of a item to run on. the insurance companies create these policies full of holes, as you mentioned. And, of course, that is meant to maximize their profits. I mean, if there's algorithms for writing insurance policies, the insurance companies are doing it because they are about making money. They are about giving a return on investment to their shareholders. And a lot of the shareholders, of course, happen to be probably white, middle-class to well-to-do folks. I mean, how many people...
we have shareholder democracy, so the people who are calling the shots are the Wall Street investors, right? And they want as much. If you're making 25% profit, why not 30? Why not 35? Why not 40?
More out, right.
And the people in charge of big corporations are finance guys, the mostly guys, the CEOs. They don't even know the content of their corporation, and they get fired if they don't live to that credo, by that credo. So there can't really be the ethical insurance company that's not going to operate that way because Wall Street won't let it happen.
The free market will not let it happen.
That's right.
The same free market that, of course, a lot of Republicans are all about, unless it doesn't return the response you want when you're doing a Google search on Donald Trump. Then they're all about regulation, like today.
So you have to. Who cares? Our democracy. When people are motivated and involved in their own democracy. So if we don't set the rule, like child labor. Yes. There was no incentive. It was profitable to have child labor, but if one company stopped using it, they'd be a competitive disadvantage, just like one insurance company. So what do you need to do? Take it out of competition. How do you do that? With the power of our democracy. And so that's the only way to guarantee health care.
I heard Congressman Glenn Grothman say a few years ago, some people want to work 7 days a week. We have laws that limit the amount of time people can work, the amount of time people can be on the road driving a truck. Why do you want these kinds of, stifling laws impacting our free market economy, Robert?
Well, it used to be said in the 19th century, this was the argument, that it was freedom of contract, right? So that basically if you were, and this was happening in Milwaukee, that's why there was a Bayview massacre, right? People were marching for an 8-hour day. That didn't matter if you had a 20% death rate down at the factory, right? Then, and by the way, when the person would die and you had one breadwinner, the family's now destitute on the street, right? The legal position was, well, the person just agreed to it. There's freedom of contract, right? As if they had the only jobs, they had to take one of those jobs to feed their family or they were starving on the street. There's no social welfare state. So that's the thing. Glenn Grothman wants to pretend like it's some economics chalkboard where everyone is free to choose, to quote Milton Friedman, when they're really not. And I think we make moral decisions in our democracy.
But it takes an engaged society to push back on those who have the ability to make decisions perhaps that are not to the benefit of the greater good. As you mentioned, the free market's going to demand that you return a profit for your shareholders. I mean, that's what it is. That is the creation of that process. I'm not saying it can be bad, no doubt about it, but it can be a good thing. But the point is, it's like refined sugar. That's how it is. It down at its core, they got to make a return, and you cannot have those that would make those decisions involved in the political process, while the mass of people who were be impacted by those types of decision not engaged. Again, it seems like we get what we deserve when we only have 22% of people showing up for a Wisconsin primary, Robert. Let's get to some phone calls. 844-967-2789. Joe from Stevens Point, you are next. Thanks for calling, Joe. What do you got today?
Hey, what's up, guys? You know what? It is such fake free marketeerism. I was reading that in India, they can do a quadruple bypass for $4,500. A couple of years ago, Oklahoma Surgery Center is an all-cash place. They were doing them for $12,500. But you got to have cash, And I mean, at a time when this country is living, 75% of the people are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And you know what? With one swipe, they restrict the amount of doctors that can come through medical school, the AMA. Cuba offers to free education for blacks, Latinos, anybody of color, and they guarantee that they can help you pass the bar. So there's a lot of external pressures that could happen if these alleged, air quotes, free marketeers would just let that happen. But we got something different going on. It's called market protection, and it's happened through highest bidder gets that sort of protection from lawmakers. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out and see if you guys could comment to how they could crash the price in a second if they wanted to. And if we were really open about this, you know, I don't know. I'm all ears, but thanks for the discussion, you guys.
All right, thanks for the call. Joe, Robert, what do you think?
I mean, the market is not free, right? Anyone we have free trade. If we had free trade, we wouldn't need these complicated treaties that all the multinational corporations are negotiating.
Right.
For obviously,
we just load the boat, go over, drop it off, sell it, come back. That's free trade.
It'd be simple.
The black market has free trade.
That it appears, yes. There may be other market distortions involved in the underground economy.
Good luck getting your money back.
Right. But so the system is the current vernacular, thanks to Bernie Sanders, is the system's rigged. But if it's not rigged by us, because 22% of us are voting in the primary, right, then it's rigged by the folks who have lobbyists and the folks who have the money and the folks who elect people like Scott Walker, spend the dark money, et cetera. And so there are all sorts of price distortions. There's a lot of research. In fact, for your listeners, Elizabeth Rosenthal's book, American Sickness, is just an amazingly good, she's the editor of Kaiser Health News, so she's very credible, former New York Times reporter, expose on the profit in our health system. Our health system, the prices that you see on your little statement have nothing to do with what the cost of delivering it is, okay? It makes a Persian rug bazaar, the stereotypical Persian rug bazaar, look like a great functioning market with very fair and transparent pricing, okay? So I think the caller's absolutely right about that. But you still have to get to the point where this is a big system. This is 80% of the economy. So it's not just about deregulating. It's about figuring out how to regulate it in the public interest because it's a life and death thing.
Yeah.
Just like we decide that utilities can't cut people's heat off, at least in the winter, right? We make certain decisions. We decide they can't have child labor. I don't think we can allow you to profit by pricing people out of healthcare or cutting them off.
We are the Devil's Advocates. Brian, let's take one more break. And, wow, Robert, thank you for sticking around, man. This time flies. Can you stick around one more break? Let's talk about this poll that has come out. Some interesting numbers. I'll spoil it for you a little bit. It's pretty much tied. Evers up a little bit, but within the margin of error, the Suffolk poll. But there are specific topics that are on people's minds during this election cycle. We talked about healthcare, of course. That's a big one. A few other topics we will touch on. And you can join us as well on the phones, toll-free, the party line, 844-967-2789. We are the Devil's Advocates. That is Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. There's some of the good guys. Come back with us.
Because you're standing still. If your body matches what your eyes can do, you'll probably move right through me on my way to you. Not paralyzed, but I seem to be struck by you.
If you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything.
You'll get nothing and like it.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and puts his helmet on and he gets off and he makes a speech, but he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy, okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, that failed facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through. Like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
The Packing House Restaurant, located at 900 East Layton Avenue, offers fine dining and casual supper club style. Family owned and operated for over 40 years, the Packing House features great steaks, prime rib, and the best fish fry around. Join us for live music on Wednesday through Saturday evenings. The Packing House Restaurant, open for lunch, Monday through Friday, and dinner nightly. Call us at 414-483-5054 or visit us online at packinghousemke.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Looking for a job worth talking about? Teaching is creative, collaborative, and intellectually challenging. See why teachers have better work stories at teachdfw.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. Scott Walker went on something of a Twitter storm, very Trumpian. What do you think this foretells for Scott Walker's future as the governor of the state of Wisconsin?
Wisconsinites have woken up. He talked about we need an optimistic message. How can you make people feel optimistic when you take away their health care? How can you make people optimistic when you take away the right to bargain? How can you make people feel optimistic when you're gerrymandering the heck out of districts?
Radio for the 99%. The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing. Hashtag Walker bashing.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio. If you miss any part of this fine show, please go to the website, realresistanceradio.com. You can listen to or download interviews and full podcasts. Still joined one last segment with our friend Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. Robert, we mentioned before going to break, poll come out. Suffolk University has released their polling, and here's what they have found. As I mentioned, Tony Evers is at 46%. He leads Governor Scott Walker 44%, but apparently that is within the margin of error. Robert, any surprises there?
It just shows it's a dead heat, which is what we knew. In fact, all the polls run together, the NBC Marist poll, the Marquette poll, and now this poll. The media all acts like things are moving in some direction or another, but margin of error means margin of error. And if those of you who listen on this station to Battleground Wisconsin know my pet peeve about polling, but the pollsters will say, oh, there's been movement.
Wait. What's the pet peeve about polling?
That it basically, the way it's reported and the way pollsters talk about to get news doesn't understand basic statistical analysis. If you have 5 issues that are within a couple, 2, 3, 4 points of each other, and there's a 5-point margin of error, it means no difference. It doesn't mean that the number one is higher, because, do you see what I mean? It's a margin of error. So actual social scientists would find most of these polls meaningless for that reason, and any claim they're changing meaningless. So all we know, because they all have different theories of who's going to turn out, and we don't know. We don't know who's going to run the more effective campaigns.
And that's going to be the
what's
ultimate,
going to happen.
I mean, the turnout's going to decide everything.
What the mix of the electorate is. And then they're giving this margin of error, and the margin of error is based on the mix they've chosen, which has even a bigger margin of error, which is why all the polls were wrong about Trump winning the 2016 election. So looking through the glass dimly, we know this is a very close race based on all these polls, and we know what the top issues are: the economy, education, healthcare, and quite frankly, Walker himself in the governor's race, right? That's what we know.
let's go down that list. As mentioned, the economy, top issue in the governor's race, according to Suffolk University polling. The economy is number one, followed by education, healthcare, which we spoke about, and then followed far behind by taxes, corruption, and gun control, roads and bridges, and Foxconn. So the economy, let's talk about this for a minute. Of course, Governor Walker and Trump, for that matter, hell, this is one of the longest expansions of economic growth in history. I mean, if you're going to vote only on economy, wouldn't you vote for Scott Walker, Robert?
Well, it's incredible how he engineered this whole national recovery, right? Not really, right?
That's how good he is.
And it's unfortunate that we've done less well than other states around us, like Minnesota, during this national recovery. The other thing is, and this is funny, if you think about it, why is he not getting more traction for how low unemployment is? Because unemployment's kind of a bogus measure. It's like literally the number of people who are actively looking for work and can't find it. The people who are out of the workforce and have given up, they're not counted. So there's another scarier number if you look at the UW Institute for Research on Poverty, which is one of the top poverty research institutes in the country. It says in the last year measured, poverty in Wisconsin went up 10% and child poverty went up 20%. Which kind of puts the lie to the idea this is some kind of great economy. And that's what you find all over the state. I mean, in these rural areas that Walker needs to carry by big margins, right? They feel like there's no jobs there. They're working 3 or 4 jobs, and their young people are leaving because there's no opportunities. So when Walker says, hey, things are great, I'm not sure that's actually an effective message.
And the increase in the poverty rate and child poverty, those are terrible statistics, and this is supposed to be the good times.
Yeah.
Let's move on just a couple more minutes. Robert, we talked healthcare. Education, second on the list of top issues according to this polling. Walker's putting himself out there as the education governor. And I think this is what I love about this matchup against Tony Evers, who is actually in education. I mean, you could say what you want about the excitement of Tony Evers. Personally, he's a great guy. Certainly not as dynamic, perhaps, as I am, but he's certainly a measured and I think is a perfect match to Walker on the education topic. How do you think this one plays out, Robert?
Well, I mean, education polls is a top issue all the time. The question in most state races, but it doesn't always cut Democrats' way because the public doesn't necessarily see that one side is supporting the public schools in the area and one isn't. Tony Evers is so credentialed in education and a science teacher who's done all of these things that this is a real problem for Walker. And I think maybe his lack of excitement is a helpful anecdote. People don't want excitement. They want someone who can run things and would actually do it. And that would be Tony Evers. So education's a problem for Walker because he got so much credit for himself for cutting education. It's hard to pivot and now make himself a great supporter of education. Now, it's interesting. I actually, because we had a forum for our endorsement process with Tony the day Walker announced his budget. Tony's not enough of a politician, so these things they're attacking him for, where he says it was a kids-friendly budget, Tony was shocked Walker was funding education and was happy and went and said it, which makes him a non-politician in many ways, which ought to be kind of refreshing that he just said what he felt. My goodness, it's great the governor put money in education, rather than thinking, I'm going to run for governor. Damn, he put money in education. You see, he didn't act like a politician, which we should actually give him credit for.
The real education governor. Thank you, Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin. Robert, if people want to get more information, get involved in your organization, how would they do so?
Like us on Facebook, very active there. Follow us on Twitter. Go to citizenactionwi.org or just Google Citizen Action of Wisconsin. We would love for you to get involved.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate the 2 segments you gave with me, man. Sherwin Hughes, he's the host of The Forum. He's on this fine station, 8 to 11 in the morning. He's going to step in next. We are the Devil's Advocates. This is Real Resistance Radio.
They'd like to take me out for a lot of reasons far bigger than just this election.
Nobody likes you. Everybody hates you. You're gonna lose.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I am sick and tired of big power brokers telling voters what's important instead of the other way around. So I joined the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. It's a community of like-minded local progressives where the members help determine what issues are important. And with the aid of professional organizers and some of the top progressive strategists in Wisconsin, we make the powers that be take notice and action. We're working on fair elections, the climate crisis, immigrant rights, electing progressive candidates, and more. Plus, we have a campaign called Radioactive that supports this station and Real Resistance Radio. So, come help us reclaim our power as voters.
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwi.org.
Businesses today thrive and survive with technology. At Five Nines, we provide businesses with the IT tools they need to stay relevant. We offer enterprise-level solutions at competitive prices. I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Let us manage your IT so you can focus on more important things, like running your business. Check us out at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Standing by Sessions, the next Manafort trial. I'm Ann Cates. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says Attorney General Jeff Sessions has his full support and ought to stay exactly where he is, despite ongoing criticism by the president. Correspondent Phil Mattingly reports most GOP lawmakers think now is not the time to look for a replacement.
The idea that they could get a new attorney general confirmed, that even they could get every Republican to support any nominee, no matter how good the nominee was, right now leadership doesn't think that's available. And because of that, the leader and most of his team saying, hey, leave this alone, Mr. President.
Opening statements will now begin September 24th for former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort's Washington, D.C. trial on money laundering, witness tampering, and other charges. Correspondent Jessica Schneider reports Manafort won't be making any court appearances until his trial starts.
He's waived his right to attend any of these pretrial hearings, and the reason is he says that the amount of time and effort it takes to get from the jail in Alexandria, where he's been held and locked up for all this time, he says it's just too much work to get to the courthouse.
Manafort was convicted of 8 counts of fraud last week. Google is denying claims by President Trump that it rigs search results.
Yeah, I think Google is really taking advantage of a lot of people.
President Trump running with an accusation by a conservative website over the weekend that Google suppresses conservative media results when the term Trump News is put in its search engine and prioritizes liberal media results, which the president says are usually negative or even fake.
Google and Twitter and Facebook, they're really treading on very, very troubled territory.
Google says the accusations are not true, that it doesn't prioritize toward nor deprioritize away from any political agenda. Jim Roop, Los Angeles.
Wall Street has advanced today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed up 14 points. The S&P 500 up 1. The Nasdaq closed up 12 points to another new record high. I'm Ann Cates.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
Loans apply. Equal housing lender.
Pfizer is recalling one flavor of its children's Advil over a labeling mix-up.
The drug maker is recalling their bubblegum-flavored children's Advil because parents were complaining the dosage instructions on the 4-ounce bottle did not match what was on the dosage cup. The label gives instructions in milliliters, but the cup is labeled in teaspoons. Pfizer says confusion over that mislabeling could lead to overdoses. The recall is for the 4-ounce bottles of bubblegum-flavored medicine that was sold nationwide between May and June, with an expiration date of November of 2020 and a lot number of R51129. About 28,000 bottles were affected, and just more than a third of them actually made it to store shelves. I'm John Stolness.
Air pollution could be more damaging to our health than previously thought. A new study finds prolonged exposure to dirty air has a big impact on cognitive abilities, and that pollution causes a steep reduction in verbal and math test scores. I'm Ann Cates.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer.
Whoa, long time no see. It's me, the Rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
I'm Jesse Pika-Holz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
For Real Resistance Radio, this is Brian Kelly with a little bit of a weather update. The entirety of southern Wisconsin seems to be under a severe thunderstorm watch that includes the cities of Argyle, Baraboo, Barneveld, Beaver Dam, Belmont, Benton, Berlin, Blanchardville, Broadhead, Brookfield, Cedarburg, Columbus, Cudahy, Darlington, Dodgeville, Endeavor, Fond du Lac, Fort Atkinson, Franklin, Germantown, Grafton, Greenfield, Hartford, Howard Grove, Jefferson, Lake Wisconsin, Lodi, Madison, Markesan, Mayville, Menominee Falls, Mequon, Mineral Point, Monroe, Montello, Muskego, Neshcoro, New Berlin, Oak Creek, Oostburg, Oxford, Plymouth, Portage, Prairie du Sac, Princeton, Reedsburg, Sauk City, and everywhere in between. This is in effect until 9 o'clock. Winds of 60 miles an hour have been reported.
Program is a presentation of DC Communications, LLC. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Kroot.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. It is the happy hour, and I am happy because our pal, Sherwin Hughes, the host of The Forum right here on Resistance Radio, airing from 8 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, has decided to join me in studio. Sherwin, welcome to the Devil's Advocates, man. Thanks for coming in.
I'm glad to be here. The last time I was here, it was to promote my start of the forum, which was August 13th. Seems like eons ago. I have started my third week this week. You know what? I feel at home, Dom, and that's a little scary. I feel at home quickly. You know, I like it.
That's awesome, man. We are happy to have you. I'm glad you feel at home. It is fantastic to have you in the building with us. Before you came on today, Sherwin, Dr. Robert Kraig, Citizen Action of Wisconsin, joined me for a couple hours. We kind of went into the healthcare conversation, and I wanted to get your opinion. I don't want to get too deep into it, but what's your position? Where do you stand on this healthcare debate? Are you for a Badger Care for all, Medicare for all? What do you think?
So yes is the short answer, and as someone who, as a child, had asthma, had to get allergy shots, because I swear when I was a kid I was allergic to absolutely everything. Going to the doctor regularly was just a part of my childhood and growing up. And so now as an adult, as now I'm in my 40s and stuff is just clearly falling apart, I see the benefit of having good health care. Now, a couple of problems are, number one, it's incredibly expensive. And if I wasn't able to make a living, there's no way I could afford to see a doctor regularly. And I think it is something that should be afforded to people, just like we're able to afford people a public education. People should be able to go to the doctor when they're sick.
Do you think this is going to be a get out the vote mechanism for the midterms or perhaps 2020? Do you see a change in thinking about this Medicare for all? I've kind of come around on this, Sherwin. Do you see other people doing this as well?
So I don't know if we call it Medicare for all, because first and foremost, the Republicans have totally lost the health care debate. They ran for many, many years and actually picked up seats saying they were going to repeal and replace Obamacare. And when they had the opportunity to do so, John McCain gave that thumbs down. They weren't able to do it. I think it's a winning issue for the Democrats because the Republicans actually lost on it because of the no vote of John McCain. So if the Democrats continue to make an issue, I think it can actually drive people to the polls if the Democrats couch the language correctly.
And how do you think it should be messaged? If it's not Medicare for all, what do you call it?
I think you look at what states offer, and also, it differs from state to state because some states were actually participating in the healthcare exchange. Wisconsin was not one of them. There are some states where you probably have more health insurers that are participating in the marketplace. In Wisconsin, you probably have less. There is a way, I'm sure, to compromise and work with insurers, doctors, and hospitals that are already cooperating with state exchanges, and maybe just go state by state. In Wisconsin, I guess our template would probably be Badger Care. And like, I heard on the previous segment, if we can afford stuff like Foxconn, then a couple of $1 billion to make sure a baby can get medicine is probably worth it.
Yeah, but that baby isn't going to donate to some third-party group that you can control the money and the messaging. I mean, the baby's just a baby. In the state of Wisconsin, you give money away when you get something in return. That's how Scott Walker did it with the mining group. That's how Scott Walker did it with the lead paint manufacturers. That's how I'm sure, though I have no specific proof, Scott Walker is doing it with the Foxconn.
You never know what Wisconsin babies might do. Wisconsin babies might actually donate some money to healthcare. You have no idea what's going to happen in this state. But I think that if constituents continue to make it an issue, because we all know the horror stories of people that can't afford their premiums or they let their health insurance lapse, and then you can actually get fined by the government if you're unable to have health insurance. There's something about that system that just does not quite work for all, but I think we can figure something out.
Well, it's going to be a driving issue certainly in the next couple of election cycles, and we'll see what happens. Also, Sherwin, today in Milwaukee, the DNC was in town the site selection committee, of course, Milwaukee making a bid for the 2020 Democratic Convention. Went out there, checked it out. We have a video of it on the Devil's Advocates Facebook page. You can see it in its entirety. What's your take on this, Sherwin? Are you looking forward to this coming here? Do you think this will impact Wisconsin and perhaps the overall national race if the DNC comes to Milwaukee? Of course, a very pivotal Midwestern state that Trump barely won. What's your thoughts, Sherwin?
So I've been saying since I heard that we were one of the finalists that we are going to get it. We are perfect. We are a Midwestern state that was formerly blue. Now we are temporarily disabled in being red. I think that once we motivate individuals here in this state by bringing the DNC here, it's going to do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to be great for travel and tourism. So it's going to bring a whole bunch of money to the city. Number two, it's going to highlight the very specific and unique issues that Milwaukee faces and that Milwaukee Democrats face. So whenever you have that kind of national attention, you get all the national news sources here. You'll have other newspapers and other news outlets, media outlets doing local color, really talking about all the things that are going on here. I think ultimately we are going to get it, and we're the best place for it. So Miami Beach, no, because the bikinis there are too small.
Oh,
and Democrats should not wear tiny bikinis. And then the other city, is it Dallas? Is the other?
It's like Houston or Dallas. Texas is hot.
It's Texas. You can't have anything. There'll be some kind of terrible terrorist event if you have a Democratic convention anywhere in Texas. So I think Milwaukee's going to get it, and we deserve it.
We do. It'd be great to have him here. You talked about the unique circumstances of Democrats here in Milwaukee. What do you mean? How would you? What do you see coming out of those local interviews?
So because we have racial factors in this town, it doesn't make politics particularly easy, because we still are one of the worst places for African Americans to raise children, to have a family. We've got these disparities in the criminal justice system when it comes to educational outcomes. It's very, very tough just to go and knock on random doors in the black community and say, hey, everybody, just blindly vote for the Democrat. So there are some divisions that exist. I don't think the divisions are insurmountable, but they exist and they're nuanced. And I think the Democratic candidates have a harder time here than they would, say, in Chicago or in Cook County. So I think those are some important things.
Do you think it could be taken as, if they come here, I think if the DNC were to come here, perhaps it is an effort to address some of those nuanced issues. Do you think that perhaps they can look at it as an opportunity? And if you had the opportunity to sit down with Perez or some of the other high-ranking DNC officials, what do you tell them? How do you think the DNC, the government, should address the racial issues we have here in Wisconsin and Milwaukee specifically through specific legislation or policy?
So, and I have talked to Chairman Perez, and I actually made sure to get him on the record, because he said that the DNC was going to invest time, effort, and resources in Wisconsin, because these 10 electoral votes, quite honestly, are pivotal. But if you look at things like education, of course, Tony Evers is going to be the education governor, and that's all well and good, but we still have so many incredible disparities. So if there is national policy from the national perspective that doesn't just look at what Democrats in the city of Milwaukee, the state of Wisconsin are doing, but nationally what can happen to fund education. There used to be this thing called Race to the Top, where all these states were competing for these huge pots of education dollars. I don't think Wisconsin was in the running. Something like that needs to be reinvigorated, because we are clearly underfunding our schools, and that hurts everybody. It hurts future job prospects. It hurts, employers that may want to come to Wisconsin and hire our folks. If we're undereducated, if we've got serious lacks in education in certain neighborhoods, it can also affect us economically.
Is the education funding, is it just money, or does it take more? If someone, if Amazon comes in and Bezos puts $1 billion in the middle of Milwaukee, will that solve the problems? It might solve some problems, but are there deeper problems, racial problems, that need to be addressed? And if money doesn't fix it, how do we address them as a society, as adults?
So yeah, it isn't. So money obviously doesn't fix everything, but I'll tell you this much: I'd rather be sad and depressed in the backseat of a Mercedes than in a Hyundai. So money can address at least some of the shortfalls when it comes to funding and making sure that we've got a 21st century curriculum so that young people, even adults, can get a 21st century job. But the conversation about race is just what exactly it is. It's a conversation that people need to have. People need to get over themselves. I don't want to hear white folks saying they feel guilty and terrible about things that happen to people of color. Let's engage in meaningful conversation and dialogue so we all can use our brains and come to some kind of solution.
I love the way you think. Sherwin Hughes, host of The Forum here on Real Resistance Radio, 8 to 11 a.m., Monday through Friday. He's going to stick around for the entire happy hour. Perhaps we'll go out for some adult beverages afterwards.
A ginger ale, perhaps?
Well, you can have a ginger ale. Brian and I are going to have something else. You can join us at the happy hour on the telephones at 844-967-2789. Toll-free talk or text. It is the party line. We are the Devil's Advocates on Real Resistance Radio. Hey, there's a song for you. We'll be right back.
All right.
I've not yet begun to defile myself.
Hi, Resistance Radio listeners. This is Kim Schrader, the president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. We are the 4,600 educators who make Milwaukee's public education system possible. MTA members are the guardians of public education because Every single day, we are fighting to strengthen and protect public schools our students deserve. MTA educators are leading the fight in Milwaukee public schools for smaller class sizes, more recess, physical education, art, and music opportunities for every child in MPS. MTA educators are the champions for healthier school meals, positive discipline practices, equitable schools, and schools that partner with parents. MTA members are the guardians of public education, and we are proud to teach all children, regardless of their zip code. To learn more, follow us on Facebook at the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamsters Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
Excuse me, I know you have a 9 o'clock, so I'll keep this short. I'm the business suit in the back of your closet. You wore me nearly every day before your office went, quote, casual. I used to be the CEO of your closet. Now I'm just that one intern no one ever talks to. I always thought you'd circle back with me, get granular, keep me in the pipeline. But nada, nothing. Don't you remember the McKittrick presentation? You spilled coffee on me, and I still looked amazing during the breakout talkback Q&A. So, I think it's time for me to move on. I've got a great resume, and I absolutely crush it in interviews, okay? Let's make this a clean break. Shift the paradigm. The only thing I ask is that you think outside the box here and do this. Take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create new jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff. Create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on Real Resistance Radio. Tune in Saturdays for Busted Pencils, fully leaded education talk with Dr. Tim Slecker, 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the voice of the voiceless, champion of the working class, Earl Ingram's Saturday show is live from 12 to 3 p.m. From 3 to 4, it's State Rep Joe Costa Zamaripa hosting The Joe Costa Show, followed by The Dawn of the Resistance with Maggie Dawn, 4 to 6. Mandatory listening, always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, joined in studio by Sherwin Hughes. He's the host of The Forum on he's on Resistance Radio here in the mornings, 8 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. Sherwin, thanks for sticking around. I heard your show this morning.
Okay.
That you like some Iron Maiden, man.
I love metal.
I did not know that about you.
Iron Maiden, Metallica. I listen to Slayer, Anthrax. You know what was interesting, though? I thought a real serious turning point in our culture was when Run DMC did Walk This Way with Aerosmith.
Absolutely.
And that was a song that almost never got made. And so now you had these two different musical universes now coming together, and I think it changed music forever. So I'm glad I was around to witness that collaboration.
Oh, me too. I mean, I remember I was at a friend's house. They had a tape, and he put it in, and I was like, what is this?
That's what everybody said.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. And of course, and it brought Aerosmith back from the dead.
Right.
They were having all sorts of drug problems back then, and that gave them the opportunity to come back. But what an introduction of rap to me. It was a great time, man. I love music back in the 80s. And, of course, the 90s, too. I mean, the grunge. I don't know if I'm just getting old, Sherwin, but the music just doesn't seem to be as emotional or good as it used to be.
So, yeah, you are getting old, but the music was better. I often say that the 90s were the best decade in human history, followed by the 2000s. The early 2000s and the 90s were just, it was better. Like, you were optimistic. We had stuff to look forward to. People were just generally happy. Now everybody's pissed off at everybody. Like, I'm pissed off at you for some reason. I don't even know why.
Everyone's pissed off at everybody about everything.
Like, things you say now piss people off. You got to be really careful in what you say. Like, if I see a very attractive woman, I got to, like, get a contract signed before I go and approach her and introduce myself because I could get Me Too'd. And so you just got to be real careful nowadays.
You got to be very careful. Well, I mean, come on. When we were kids, I didn't have any of the elegance that I have now, and I have very little now. So you can imagine
your childhood elegance.
Oh, you could imagine how it was. Sherwin, DNC coming to town talking about race. You know, and here in Wisconsin, I did not know until I moved down here to Milwaukee how segregated, how terrible this environment is, this city and the state is for young African Americans, specifically males. It is a stunning thing for me to have learned over the last 15 years, and it is certainly a blemish on our society. In the midst of all of these things, we have the new stadium, we have new investment in certain parts of Milwaukee, and we have the DNC toying with coming up here. And I'm with you, man. I think they will. How could they not? But politically speaking, do you think that regardless of who was president, be it the Dems or Republicans, do you think things have changed over the course of, say, the last 20 years since, you and I have been somewhat paying attention?
I think they have, but we still have far too many disparities that are taking place. So we can watch the Wisconsin economy flourish. We can watch the national economy do much better. We can watch nationally unemployment fall to all-time lows. But for some reason, in particular areas and zip codes of the city of Milwaukee, unemployment is still ridiculously high. Wages, of course, are still too low. Crime is too high. Then there's over-policing and all the other resources that go into that. But the reason why we are segregated was actually codified in law. They had these things called housing covenants when they actually created the suburbs. So when people were coming back from World War II and the VA or the GI Bill was giving vets loans, first of all, black vets couldn't get those loans to buy houses. But when they carved out the suburbs, they made sure to say in these housing covenants, of course, taking advantage of the fact that there was no federal housing anti-discrimination laws until the 60s, they said you cannot sell your property for a period of 30 to 60 years. And you can read all this stuff. You go look at the housing covenants in Milwaukee.
Terrible.
They literally say if you sell your house to and they say someone of the Negro race, the bank would foreclose on your property because they wanted to keep the suburbs white for at least 2 generations. And the interesting thing about that is someone could come back from World War II, get the GI Bill, buy their house, get a 30-year mortgage, pay the house off, give a paid-off house to their children, who then could sell the house when they saw fit 30 years later. So 2 generations of equity was allowed to be created and persist.
Wealth creation.
Correct. Outside of the city of Milwaukee, where African Americans could not break the back of housing segregation until Vel Phillips finally got some housing legislation passed in 1968.
And of course, was that 50-year anniversary? And again, this is something I've been educated on. I just can't see how people could write those things into laws. And the way I was raised, treat everybody the same. And thankfully, I mean, my parents were good. No one's perfect.
Right.
But my parents raised me, you treat everybody the same. You don't say this. You don't say. They're very specific on how I was to act around the household, and I believed it, man. I was raised that way, and I was brought up that way, and it stuck with me.
Right.
And so when people say, what are the African Americans so mad about? Slavery ended, a long time ago. Well, of course it may have, but then we had Jim Crow. We have these kinds of laws that restrict African Americans from engaging in the same opportunities that everybody else was able to do so. But we still got a long ways to go. And of course, some of the people who, perhaps were around during those times, certainly loving Virginia with whites and blacks being able to marry, are still alive. They are still alive on this earth, and they have probably procreated. They have probably passed along, that thought process. People can evolve. I have no doubt about it. But we have a long way to go. We got a long way to go in the city of Milwaukee, and hopefully, we can be a forum The forum.
The forum, the Fiserv forum, the DNC, it all fits together, Dom.
I like how you work, man. Sherwin Hughes, host of the forum here on Real Resistance Radio. We'll come back. You can join us if you choose. 844-967-2789. That's the party line. This is the Devil's Advocates Radio Show on Real Resistance Radio.
Educated man.
Diversity and diversity.
I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
I'm Jesse Pikeholz with Solidarity Realty. If you're looking for a home in Madison or Dane County, call me. I know Madison. I know homes. I'll protect your best interests. Call Solidarity Realty at 608-284-9311 or search solidarityrealty.com.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, Save the Food, we're helping to stop food waste. Save the Food. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
The Earl Ingram Show. Join me at a new time, weekday mornings, for the Earl Ingram Show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. on Real Resistance Radio, Monday through Friday, and as always, Saturdays noon to 3. The Earl Ingram Show, streaming live at realresistanceradio.com. Don't miss it. Voice of the voiceless, champion of the working class, the Earl Ingram Show.
Hey, everybody. If Scott Walker were made of cheese, would you eat him? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. That's why I listen to Real Resistance Radio.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property, or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
I'm afraid right now for the future of my children's generation and those to come.
In this age of mass school shootings, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker offers the same bold agenda of the National Rifle Association.
Make sure you remember in your thoughts and more importantly in your prayers.
While Walker offers platitudes, he blocks meaningful gun safety legislation.
It's really an honor to work with the NRA not only in my state but across the country. And I'm proud of my A+ ranking as a governor.
Walker weakened the gun laws in Wisconsin, and then he got $3.5 million worth of NRA support.
There have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures.
Scott Walker, you are not one of them. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gostad. Flash flood watch is in effect for most of southeastern Wisconsin and south central Wisconsin until tomorrow morning at 9. Many areas received up to 9 inches of rain yesterday and will likely get more today. 2 African-American ministers from Milwaukee are accusing the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department of treating them like criminals because of their race. The Baptist ministers were on their way home from fishing in May when they got a flat tire. The Waukesha County Sheriff's deputy pulled over, but instead of offering assistance, asked if he could see their IDs and if they had any weapons. Tuesday, partly sunny with a chance of rain throughout the day. Highs in the upper 80s in Milwaukee, low 80s in Madison. Tonight, rain likely, lows in the mid-60s in Milwaukee, low 60s in Madison. Wednesday, mostly cloudy with a 30% chance of rain in Milwaukee. Partly sunny for Madison, much cooler with highs only around 70 degrees. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. Sherwin Hughes, my guest host today. Crudy's out for a couple more days. You can join us on the phones, 844-967-2789. Sherwin, mind if we take a couple of calls?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Ian from Milwaukee, you will be first. Thanks for calling. Ian, what do you got for us today?
Hey guys, hey Sherwin, hey Dom.
Hey man.
So DNC, that would be awesome. I feel like there's a huge disconnect between our metro areas and our vast farmland and forest areas of wilderness in Wisconsin. You know, I'm talking like Dane County, I'm talking Brown County down through Paper Valley, and the Milwaukee area down to Kenosha. The DNC would be great for us to just talk about how great all the people that have built Milwaukee. That's a huge part of Wisconsin as well, and I just think it would be very good for everybody in the state of Wisconsin if the DNC came to Milwaukee.
Yeah, it would be fantastic. Ian, what do you think about the outstate Dems? I mean, traditionally people think of, the countryside and, well, that's, that is all Republican conservatives. But man, I grew up out in the country, and I don't think there's a fair amount that are going to be deadlocked, straight Republican, whatever. But there are people that can be plied. They can be educated. They can, be shown a different side of topics and perhaps be eventually come around. Do you think that that's something that this DNC coming to Milwaukee would perhaps it inspire some more Dems on outstate to get involved?
I mean, it very well could. I think a lot of it is how the conversation takes place. For instance, you've got the state of Iowa, the Huskers over there, and they were one of the first states to, I believe, legalize the what was it called? The number 10 gay marriage, like years ago. So you got a lot of farming communities that are very open-minded and very people-focused. They're not looking at the gears cranking in the machine or the noise coming from the TV, but they're more like in touch with life. And I think if the conversation's presented well, and I don't know. I think that's a possibility for sure.
All right, man. Thanks for the call, Ian. We do appreciate it. Have a great day. Randy on the highway. You're next. You could be like Randy at 844-967-2789. We got Sherwin Hughes in studio. Randy, what do you got for us?
Hey, Mr. Hughes, how you doing, man?
Good, doing good.
Hey, man, I had told a couple of guys about you since you moved down to Dial, man. Because I'm headed home, man. Trying to get home, as you may call me the brother from Cedarburg, but still,
Oh, I remember you.
Hey, man, I'm just glad you. I told the guys about you. I can't hear you, man. I don't got my run changed too much now, man.
Well, you can listen a variety of different ways. You can download the TuneIn app. You can go to realresistanceradio.com. That's still you can still get that in Cedarburg, right?
I don't know, but a lot of time I run, I was listening to you early in the morning. But now they'll move my time up to like about 5 in the morning, man.
That's too early.
Towards Indy.
Okay.
I'm heading towards Indy some days. I'm heading toward northern part of Michigan some days.
Are you still a Republican? Before we let you go, are you still a Republican? Or are you not?
Why we going there, man?
Because it's fine if you are. I'm curious.
Listen. I told you already.
Yeah.
I'm not a Democrat because they believe that as long as they give our brothers something free, we okay with it. I'm not down with that part.
Okay.
I'm not down with the Republican part because they don't give a damn about me.
Okay.
Or those who look like me, and since I can't get down with them. So I just really talk to me what I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? I'm a guy who makes almost $100,000 a year.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
well
But I'm just one of those things. And two, hey, in a second, Sherman, I got a question for you real fast. Now hang up and listen. Ain't the mayor race coming up in 2020? Do you think the brother who you supported for governor should think about running. Nellie Mitchell should think about running for mayor of the city of Milwaukee.
No, because he'd be a carpetbagger. He lives in Madison. We don't want somebody from Madison coming to Milwaukee just to run for mayor.
Thank you for the call, Randy. Again, you can join us on the lines, 844-967-2789. What do you think
He's
Malin
totally
does,
a Republican, by the way.
Oh,
But anyway.
Randy's a Republican?
Well, we've had some interesting conversations in the past, and he sounded like he was leaning more right. But look, I'm not holding that against him.
No,
That's
man.
whatever. Do your thing, Randy.
Well, people need to be convinced, and I think Randy's a perfect example of that. I mean, what are you going to do for me? I mean, now that's a fair question. If you're going to be a politician, you're going to want a person's vote, the question should be, what are you going to do for me? You want my vote. I mean, I'm not even talking about, giving you dollars like Scott Walker does and I get legislation.
Right.
I want to know, what are you going to do? What impact will your being in office, how will that positively affect me? And I think people should probably be able to clarify, to explain to people like our friend who just called and say, this is what we're going to do, this is what I feel is important, and this is why I am asking for your vote. Do you think politicians are coming around and asking voters, and in this case specifically African Americans, are they being available to the needs of the African American voters here in Wisconsin?
So, no, and because we just by default vote for Democrats, and having Barack Obama on the ballot for 8 years, I think that really helped kind of solidify black support for the Democrats up and down the ticket, down ballot races, legislative races. But now we've got Tony Evers on the ticket, and Wisconsin still is the worst place for African American children and families. Tony is going to have to give policy agenda items, like real specific stuff that has been neglected, certainly by Scott Walker, and quite honestly, even neglected by Democratic Governor Jim Doyle. In order for people to vote for Tony Evers in a higher number in which they turned off for Hillary Clinton, all the community is asking for is just real, actual policy solutions. What I've heard time and time again, because I've interviewed a whole bunch of candidates, is they always stop at legalizing marijuana because they think all black people want is free weed. That doesn't necessarily hurt, but you have to go a little bit further to dig into the disparities. But I think Ian brought up a good point. If the DNC comes here, I want rural Wisconsinites or rural Wisconsin Dems to have a reason to come to Milwaukee other than State Fair.
Yeah.
So they can come hang out and see that the city's not that bad. They might even enjoy themselves. And plus, I love that rural Wisconsin accent. I love that. What do you think, Sherwin, about maybe go get a couple 2-tree beers or no?
Two or three?
Maybe 2-tree beers, yeah.
3 or 4, perhaps. 844-967-2789. Looks like Senator Lena Taylor's on the line. Senator, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got for us today?
Well, thank you for answering my call. The first thing I wanted to say is I did talk to the Superintendent Evers today, candidate for governor. We were both in a committee meeting to deal with the juvenile justice issue with the closing of Lincoln Hills. And afterwards, we spoke about the very things that Sherwin just actually said and how important it is to speak with individuals from Milwaukee, to engage. Has he picked an office to be at and staff to be able to help with that? Has he connected with Malin? He told me that they've spoken and that he has connected and that he is looking forward to getting together with a group of individuals to begin to have conversations and address concerns that people may have. And so I say that to say he can't solve all the problems, right? And he's not going to, in a conversation. But there is no question that Tony Evers shows a commitment to trying to talk, hear about what the concerns are, talk to the people all over the state, including Milwaukee, including people of color. And I just wanted to call in and chime and say that today I was in a meeting with him, and I deliberately, after the meeting, asked those very things and spoke about those very things that Sherwin just mentioned.
Senator, have you endorsed? Crickets.
I'm sorry, I thought you weren't done.
No, I'm asking if you have or if you will endorse Tony Evers, because your endorsement carries a lot of weight.
I am not going to be endorsing Scott Walker. I can assure you of that.
Okay.
I can assure you of that. What I will tell you, and I said it to Tony, the authenticity of who I am and how I do things requires me to have a conversation with him and address the issues that I know my constituents are concerned about and that I'm concerned about, and know what his plan is before I just say, yeah, I'm with him. Because I'm going to be honest, I wasn't with him in the primary. I was with Malin. And so because of that, I want to have that sit down appropriately and do it. But I can tell you the chances of me endorsing Scott Walker are slim to zero.
Well, we know that. You and Scott Walker go way back to the county executive days, right?
That's right. I tried to tell y'all to get rid of the man when he was the county executive.
Senator Taylor ran for county executive back in 2007 because we knew that if he got reelected to county executive in 2008, he would run for governor, and he did. Yeah.
Senator, he lied in that race and said he wasn't. And then that's exactly what he did afterward. And then he lied and told y'all he was going to make 250,000 jobs, and he ain't did that.
Still haven't done that.
Obama made them jobs.
A bunch of other stuff.
Senator Taylor, certainly your constituency, I mean, they voted for you. They're looking to you for leadership. If they come to you and ask you about this particular race, Evers versus Walker, fan of Walker, and I understand your point about, getting some stories lined, some plans down before an endorsement of Evers. But what do you tell your constituents who are pondering right now?
I tell my constituents, the 15 years I've been elected, since 2010, I've been dealing with Governor Walker, and I do not see how you could vote for him. And what I want to do is avoid people staying home. That is my concern.
Yeah.
And so people voting for Walker is not my concern. People voting for Evers is my concern. And making sure they don't stay home because they don't feel motivated or they don't understand is my concern. And I can't just say vote for them because my constituents ask me questions. And they know me well enough to know when, I'm not giving them all of it. And then they'll say, well, what does that mean? And what does that mean? So, for example, Sherwin just did it, sort of to me. Well, are you endorsing? I can say, well, I'm not voting for Walker. And they'll say, well, wait a minute. That don't mean you endorsing. Why aren't you endorsing? And I said, well, I want to talk to him. And they said, well, what you want to talk to him about? So I can assure you that I believe from the conversation I had today that I will not only be endorsing Superintendent Evers, but in addition to that, I will be carrying the banner and wearing bells.
That's all I wanted to hear, Senator. Just waiting for you to say that. Didn't have to go around the block to get next door.
Right. It's got to come after a conversation where I know what the facts are because I won't speak to people without knowing those facts.
All
right, Senator Lena Taylor. Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you calling 844-967-2789. Let's get one more caller in here in this segment. Taylor from Milwaukee, you're up. Thanks for calling. What do you got for us today?
It's Tyrone, actually.
Oh, Tyrone.
Yes,
Gary!
Hey, Tyrone, didn't I hear from you this morning?
Yes,
My sincere apologies, Tyrone.
Good afternoon, Dom. Good afternoon, Sherwin. Good afternoon, Brian. And good afternoon, my senator, and Lena Taylor. She's taken. I'll tell you one thing. She gets a lot of respect and a lot of pull from myself, but us from here in Milwaukee, I can speak for myself personally. So, but I'll say this here, and I certainly aren't voting for Scott Walker, but I need to hear more from Mandela Barnes, who I've met. I haven't met Mr. Evers there, but I need to hear from them. The young lady that helped me with her name there, Sherwin, the Independent.
Maggie Turnbull.
Turnbull, yes. The woman said that she was going to do a lot for the children and all. And I'll say this here. I appreciate you, Senator Taylor, and all. I'll make my mind up at the polls, but that's where I'm caught between right now, Ms. Turnbull, and looking to. I don't know if there's going to be a debate. There probably should be, because we need to see how they need to question each other on who's going to do what for who and where. So, but having said that, I can't say that as politicians I don't have anything against Mr. Evers or Mandela Barnes. We just need to hear more of what they're going to do if they do win this. But the Ms. Turnbull, she has stepped up, looking to hear more of what she's going to do too. But that's where I am. I'm between the two of them, and I just hope that as a city and as a state, we can get it turned around. To all the people need a win, as Wendell said. The people, we need a win, not so much a party, but we the people.
Hey, Tyrone, if I may, yes, if you would stay on the line for just a moment, sir. I wanted to ask.
Okay.
What do you want to hear? I mean, from Evers or from Turnbull. I mean, what motivates you? What's going to get you motivated to get other people motivated so we can have a greater turnout than 22% like we did in the primary, Tyrone? What's most important to you? What would convince you to vote for Tony Evers, for example?
Well, it's been covered a lot. Like the schools, the curriculum, the funding for the schools, like Ms. Turnbull has said there, different things for the families there, insurance, the jobs. Not Scott holes either. I forget there was another word there, but there's somebody's potholes that ain't owning up to them, and they're like craters now. So, but a lot of different things there. Just knowing that we're on the right path to being a better community for each other there. Not just carrying somebody else's bucket of piss water there for individual gain there, but we need to do better as human beings, toward each other there to get where we need to be there. Not just the new arenas and Summerfest and all that stuff there, but if you don't have a winning product in all those venues and all that there, you're just putting butts in seats there, and we're not getting anywhere. The sellouts for the Packers and the Brewers there, but you're not getting to the playoffs of the World Series there. We got to do better all the way around for the children and all the way up and down the ladder then.
All right, Tyrone, thank you so much for the call. We certainly appreciate it. 844-967-2789 if you want to join us. I would say this, Sherwin. It's one thing to have a conversation, be it with Maggie or be it with Tony Evers or even Scott Walker. But we heard Scott Walker, and we actually heard Donald Trump.
Right.
Politicians say all sorts of things. So it's not just about what they say. It's also about their character. What did they say in the past, and did they perform? Did they follow through?
Right.
Do they have substance, or are they just up there like Walker and like Trump saying any damn thing to get your damn vote? And when it's all said and done, thank you. We'll see you in 4 years. We are the Devil's Advocates. Sherwin Hughes, the Forum, joins us. One more segment. You can as well. 844-967-2789.
Fight the power. Fight the power. Fight the power. We've got to fight the power.
Hey.
Right, okay.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
Hey.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Listen and imagine. It takes 5 seconds to send a text, and for those 5 seconds, you're driving blind. Life is worth more than a text. Stay alive. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Ignacio, what do you got for us today?
Hey, I quit paying attention for like maybe one day, and all hell breaks loose. That goes to show me I got to pay attention every single day to your radio program, or else who knows what'll happen.
If you don't listen to the Devil's Advocates 3 hours every day, Nacho, you're missing a lot.
You got that right. I just learned that today. I turned it on and I'm listening, and you really just rocked my world today. I was just totally blown away.
Save the $2 on tomorrow's paper. Listen to the Devil's Advocates today.
Totally blown away.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Looking for a job worth talking about? Teaching is creative, collaborative, and intellectually challenging. See why teachers have better work stories at teachdfw.org and learn more about becoming a teacher. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
5 your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. Before time gets away, I want to thank my guest, Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin, for hanging out. And, of course, Sherwin Hughes, host of The Forum, Monday through Friday on Real Resistance Radio, 8 to 11 a.m. You can hear him. Sherwin, you have the floor, my friend.
So I want to address something, because I was supportive of Malin Mitchell, and so was Alderwoman Shantia Lewis, and so was State Senator Lena Taylor, and so was Tamika Vukovic, who's an alderwoman and a member of the school board. So was State Rep Jason Fields. A lot of African-American stakeholders, elected officials, were supportive of Malin. I was as well, and somehow some rumor got started, and I hate these rumors that get started on the Democratic side because people always believe them. There's a rumor that I'm trying to subvert Tony Evers' campaign. Absolutely not. I have no interest in doing that. There's no reason for it. I see how Walker has hurt this state, how he has hurt this community. Me wanting to subvert Tony Evers' campaign is asinine, it's ludicrous, and I'm sick of these rumors and these stupid whisper campaigns, because there was a whisper campaign about Malin Mitchell. I wish Democrats would just stop the childishness and get back to actually winning elections. Instead of us beating up on each other, let's start beating some Republicans for once in our goddamn lives. I can't say goddamn, can I?
No, you cannot. Sherwin Hughes, host of The Forum. One question for you regarding then Tony Evers. Yep. Have you endorsed Tony Evers?
I haven't. I mean, I'm just a radio guy. I'm a regular old citizen. I would like to talk to him. I would like to interview him. Mandela as well. I would like to see what their policy stances are and what they're actually going to do.
You're giving me the Lena Taylor, man.
Well, here's what I'm saying, though. No, but me endorsing somebody, who am I? I'm just a talking head. I want Mandela to go out and raise money for the Assembly Democrats so we can get a legislative majority in 2020 so Democrats can draw maps. So we can gerrymander our own maps for a change. And I want to hear that from them. I don't want me to tell them what I want them to say. I want them to tell me what their plan actually is.
I'll put you down for a definite maybe. Sherwin Hughes, host of The Forum on Real Resistance Radio. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me. Let's go spend some quality time at perhaps a local neighborhood establishment here on Brady Street. Hell, folks, you know it is Harley-Davidson's 115th year anniversary. It's already starting. It's raining a little bit, but the bikes are already rolling to town. It's going to be a blast. If you come down to Brady Street, knock on the window, come in, come say hi. We are the Devil's Advocates. This is Real Resistance Radio. Thank you once again, Dr. Robert Kraig, Executive Director, Citizen Action of Wisconsin, and of course, our friend Sherwin Hughes, host of The Forum, right here, Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 a.m. We'll be back tomorrow.
I see it in your eyes. Take one look and die.
having a bully day? I'm having a bully day. Is everyone having a bully day? Bully! Bully! Yes, bully!
I don't think the heavy stuff's going to come down for quite a while.
Hi, I'm Becky with Bounce Milwaukee, a progressive, local, family-owned entertainment center. We just want to remind you what it's like to be a kid again. Come on in for all ages fun. Bounce in our